Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the fifth round of the 2026 DTM eSports Championship here on Race Room Racing Experience. My name is John Monroe, and I'm going to be calling the action for you today as we enter the glorious Sachsenring circuit for this fifth round. I'm joined by Zach Sweeney, and Zach, it's getting to the business end of this championship now. Only one more round to go until the in-person finale, and this is where it counts.
Yeah, exactly that. This is crunch time, particularly for those, in the 18th to 23rd region of the championship. Of course, it's the top 20 at the end of the online qualifiers that will then make their way into the LAN event. We take to Hockenheim and the Nürburgring for the two-race event to crown our champion in 2026. Very much looking forward to it. For those at the front, maybe it's an opportunity for them to let loose a little bit. They've got a little bit less to lose because, they're slightly safer in terms of qualifying. But for those towards the back end of the pack, those that are scraping in, they really need to maximize a good result if, they want to be on the grid for the final.
Yeah, we've had 4 different winners in 4 different races, which is obviously great to see. But of course, there's 2 separate battles we're paying attention to. There's the battle at the top of the championship standings. Not that it actually matters too much in the grand scheme of things, but we'll get to why later on. But of course, this will be a big moment of honour for the drivers to try and win that main season championship, the opening 5 rounds, because the competition is so high on here. But of course, as you mentioned, it's actually potentially more about who finishes inside that top 20 in the standings to give themselves a great chance of taking the overall honours next time out. But we'll talk a little bit more about the future events in a second, and we'll talk a little bit more about today's race in just a minute, because before that, we're going to take a quick look at the highlights from the previous real-world round of the DTM Championship, which just took place at Oschersleben.
A huge horsepower spectacle at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. DTM races 9 and 10, above all one thing, emotional. Over 55,000 spectators, 20 high-performance drivers, plus Rudy Robot celebrate the 5th stop of the season on the racing calendar. As always, the fans were right in the thick of the action, including during the track safari. Getting any closer than that, tough. For Luca Exler, the weekend felt just like a family outing.
Since I can think, I'm here as a small kid watching my dad race, parking with the motorhome on the karting track. Had also a lot of trouble here in the past, so it's just great running through the emotions, and now back on the podium is just great.
Thomas Preining delivered that on Saturday. The 2023 champion dominated both qualifying and the race. Thomas Preining, the Austrian driver, is about to see the checkered flag and pick up his 2nd win of the season. Things got really loud on Sunday at the Grasser Racing team. Mirko Bortolotti became the very first driver to secure a victory in the new Lamborghini Temerario.
I'm super happy to take that win, and I still can't believe it, what we managed to achieve today, coming from P6 with a perfect strategy, perfect race. Just super proud of everyone, and I just enjoy this victory as much as I can.
Fans were able to cheer on these successes up close. For the first time, the DTM moved the victory ceremony directly into the fan zone.
I really like it, and I'm a fan of it, so the more people, the more crowd you have around the podium, the better it is.
The season is really picking up steam now. With Maro Engel leading the standings, the action continues on August the 15th and 16th at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it truly was great to see Mirko Bortolotti taking the first win for the new Lamborghini Temerario. Not just the first win in the DTM Championship, but actually the first win for a Temerario GT3 in all of motorsport. Of course, it's also racing over at IMSA and the GT World Challenge Series as well. And it's just great, isn't it, Zach, to see a brand new GT3 car taking a win, because obviously one thing that makes GT3 racing so exciting is the kind of range of machinery we get to see out there on circuit.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course with that, there needs to be some balancing in the form of the balance of performance, and for the most part, organisers do get it done very, very well. And particularly, it's a bit of intrigue in the sim as well, because the field, truthfully, in sim racing is a lot tighter. The drivers have so much more time to prep, and as such, the margins are so much smaller, which means the differences in the characteristics of each car matter that little bit more. So, of course, throughout the whole season, we've been speaking on the balance of performance and trying to keep the cars as balanced as possible between, the rear, the mid, the front engine cars, their different quirks and characteristics. And for the most part, we've seen very, very balanced fields in terms of the machinery. The strategy that we've seen has been pretty uniform across all different car types, and we have seen basically every single type of car fighting at the front end of the field. So yeah, it's a testament not only to the manufacturers and their ability to make some spectacularly looking and sounding race cars, but also as well from an organizational standpoint to make sure everything is fair and keep everyone nice and competitive.
Yeah, I do still miss that V10 Lamborghini sound, but we'll get used to the Temerario eventually, and it actually does sound like a good car. I've actually had the privilege of testing it on Race Room because this car is going to be coming to Race Room very, very soon indeed, but a little bit more on that later on. Also interesting that Thomas Preining took the first win at Oschersleben in the Porsche. This is the same man who was threatening to quit not long ago because of frustration with the BOP, then finds himself at the top at Oschersleben and back into the top 4 in the championship standings. But as you say, in the world of esports, in the DTM eSports Championship, we've had 3 different manufacturers winning across 4 different rounds. So clearly the BOP's been well controlled. It's all fixed setup, and clearly lots of different manufacturers have a chance of winning, and it's keeping the championship remarkably tight. And speaking of the DTM eSports Championship, let's check out now its highlights from its previous round, also at Oschersleben.
So, for the 4th time in DTM eSports in this new era, 2026, these longer races, we're about to get racing into the opening corner. And it is racing. Tim Yarshall almost looked like he jumped the start then. He's able to clear Alessandro Ottaviani easily into the opening turn. It'll be Yarshall from Ottaviani. That looked almost coordinated between the group. Wanner and Muller will be fighting over 3rd and 4th position. Meanwhile, a big look to the outside as Jonas Wanner is able to keep Tobias Gronewold at bay. But Tim Yarshall, Ewan O'Leary, is your race leader by a country mile.
And it is when they exit, as Yarshall is now doing.
Tim Yarshall is, as I say, on the exit pit lane. Where is he going to come out compared to the drivers that he was around? Is it comfortably clear, or is it behind? Oh, almost slotting right into the middle, side by side. What will effectively 2nd place? They return into their quartet, and it's Alessandro Ottaviani who's lost out to Jonas Wanner and all that. So Ottaviani down to 3rd.
They're both in. Yeah. Sebastian Rear, the only one who's carrying on at this point. Oh, as Lerner does go for it here. He's not spent too long behind Manuel Vera this time, and this is again the element of surprise where you've got to spring it on them early, trying to get alongside. He can't stay alongside though quite. He needed to stay there, even if it was a slight overlap down towards turn number 1. Is he going to give it another go now? He's getting desperate. Oh, and he just backs out of it. Where is Yarshall going to be though? And Gronewold, the 2 other contenders really from that top 5. Gronewold pretty close to Yarshall. I think Banner's going to be in the lead here.
Jonas Wanner into the opening complex of corners and into the potential race lead as Tim Yarshall has dropped down into what will be 3rd place.
Actually not that far away from the lead entirely, but Banner is going to be able to get ahead of him there, at least to the inside, and so is Ottaviani, because you have to go around so far there on the right-hander. But here he is, Hoban. He is indeed in 3rd place.
Now Tim Yarshall sits behind, and once again here we go for 2nd place. Here comes a look, Nicholas Halban trying to get to the outside. We'll try and cut to it in just a second. It is going to be Nicholas Halban straight to the outside of the opening corner. Contact between the pair of them. Alessandro Ottaviani getting squeezed out wide and sliding himself out into 3rd position. Ottaviani's going to go. Big kick of oversteer from Nicholas Halban. Is Ottaviani going to be able to come straight back through? Not on this occasion. After its victory in the Sachsenring, season was looking like it was making a turn for the better, and like you say, consistency has been a struggle. Although as we say that, Manuel Vera has got to the outside, big contact between the pair of them, and Kaiki Oliveira is going to come through as well. Kaiki Oliveira into 9th position, Moritz Lerner back down to 10th after contact between Manuel Vera and Moritz Lerner at the opening corner. Indeed, it's been a fantastic drive from Jonas Wanner though at the front of the field. He has got just 2 corners to tick off before coming across the line to be a winner again in the DTM eSports Championship. It's Jonas Wanner across the line. Superb performance from Wanner to become the 4th different winner of 2026. Nicholas Huben on to the podium as well, along with Alessandro Ottaviani, who was just able to hang on compared to Tim Yarshall.
So a very exciting race last time out then at Oschersleben, and it was of course victory for the first time this season for Jonas Wanner. This man has gone from strength to strength throughout the season, taking his first podium previously at the Norris Ring and then taking his first win this time out in the Alpha 1 by SX BMW. Nicholas Hauben finished 2nd in the Team Nitro Porsche ahead of Alessandro Ottaviani, finishing P3 for DTM eSports after a mid-season team switch, of course, in that Porsche. And that was your podium the last time out. Here is your current championship standings then. And as you can see, that win for Jonas Vanner has jumped him up to first in the standings on 3,940 points. Ottaviani second and Hauben third. So your podium finishers, not quite in the same order, are actually your top three in the championship standings, with Tim Yarshall, ever consistent, sitting there in P4, lurking in that Falcon Audi, ahead of Maximilian Benneke, Turka Hakkinen, Moritz Lerner, race winner earlier in the season, of course, Tobias Grunewald, Tomasz Ribeiro, who actually led the standings going into this round, Auschersleben, showing just how tight and close things are, and then Kike Oliveira, P10 for BS Plus competition, with Lucas Müller, Philip Dreiss, Julian Kunze, Manuel Vera and Tim Roche running at your top 15, Enzo Filipao, Florian Hasse, Matej Mikiewicz, Marko Pejic and Philip Spiegel currently sitting in that top 20 spots. Of course, the crucial top 20 for this championship moving forward. And you can see the other names there heading further down. Now, it was an exciting race last time out, obviously, Zach, but it just shows you how quickly things can turn with Vanner jumping all the way up to first out of nowhere and our championship leader, Ribeiro, dropping down to 9th.
Of course, this is a discussion that we've had, of course, and it's the reason why every driver has got 1 million points. It's purely because that everyone who takes part in, no matter what split of the DTM eSports rounds that you do, whether that's top split or bottom split, you do score championship points, which means that, in theory, a driver who has done split 2 for the best part of the entire season can get their ranking and their reputation to a high enough level, come into split 1 at the final round and still manage to qualify. What that does mean, though, is that at the top end, they need to compensate for that. However, from a viewership standpoint, from an excitement standpoint, it does mean you do have quite a volatile championship in the sense that things can fluctuate so quickly. As you mentioned, with Tomasz Ribeiro going from P1 down to P8 in the championship, and that fluctuation can happen at the top as much as it can happen at the bottom. So just because you're sat in P20 coming into this round, by no means are you safe, especially for Philip Spiegel, Sebastian Ray. They're separated by 60 points coming into this, which again sounds like a monumental task. But if Sebastian Ray can bag a good result this evening, anything is possible, and we could well see quite a shake-up heading into the final 2 races of the 2026 season when we take to the on-site finale.
Just get yourself into that top 20. That's all you need to do at this moment, and you'll be good and ready to go for the finale. Well, there's more exciting things happening at Race Room, because in 3 days' time, Race Room will receive its Summer 2026 update. And a big part of that, something I alluded to earlier, the introduction of a brand new DTM 2026 car pack, including the new Lamborghini Temerario GT3. Not long to wait now until you can get your hands on that new DTM 2026 car pack, so do check out all the Race Room official channels for that. One of the new cars, of course, the Ford Mustang GT3 as well, and one of the new drivers to the championship is Finn Wiebelhaus, who is actually the Beat the Pro driver for this weekend's Beat the Pro event, which you can take part in on Race Room, heading towards the in-person Nürburgring round of the DTM championship, so you can get qualifying now, and here's a little preview video.
Hi, I'm Finn Wiebelhaus, driver for HRT Ford Racing. Go now on the Race Room leaderboard and try to beat my time. The top 5 will win tickets for the DTM at the Nürburgring and have the chance to race against me.
So if you think you're a fast enough racer to take on Finn at the Nürburgring event of the DTM Championship coming up in a couple of weeks, do make sure you jump onto Race Room, set those lap times, try and break into the top 5 and get yourself some tickets. However, the focus today, Zach, is very much on Sachsenring, I should say, which is a very tight and technical circuit, anti-clockwise, of course, most known, I would say, for MotoGP and motorcycle racing, but actually an incredible circuit for really close action and racing. If you just get offline for a minute, you can find yourself dropping back numerous positions.
Yeah, it's a circuit that favors momentum, right? There's not a lot of hard stops. A lot of the circuit is just carrying that minimum speed. It's to keep the front balanced, to keep obviously the weight where you want it. Very rarely are you actually getting hard onto the anchors and really slowing the car down. Like I say, it's about rhythm, it's about momentum. The hardest braking zone is probably T1, and then from then on, it's all about flow and rhythm. So it really does make it a driver circuit because, like you say, if you get offline for even just a second, you're going to be punished for it. You're going to get understeer. You're going to wash wide. And like you say, you lose that momentum very quickly with how close and competitive this field is. You're going to probably be losing quite a lot of positions. And while they have got an hour's race, it's not a short amount of time by any means. It's not exactly an endurance race. I think track position early doors could be quite a decisive factor, especially if you don't nail your strategy. You really want to be in control from the get-go today.
Yeah, qualifying is important around here. It's very tight and close together, so it's difficult to get moves done. Having said that, though, as soon as you do see a battle up ahead, it really does open up opportunities for drivers who can just keep it clean and pick the right line. To be honest, I think I had the most enjoyable sim race I've ever had around this circuit on Race Room in old DTM 1992 cars around about a decade ago. It was magnificent fun, and ever since then, I've just been truly in love with racing around this circuit, and I think we're going to see some great action here today. Qualifying is just about to get underway, so we will head to the circuit very shortly indeed, and we'll see who can take the pole position. But what I'm expecting around this place as well, Zach, is a very chaotic opening lap. Drivers will be jostling for position, and the nature of that first sector, which you're actually viewing right now, as you see Jonas Vanner in his BMW, you've got a lot of switchbacks, a lot of slow corners, and if you just pick one side and don't quite get a move done, you will find yourself washed out, and suddenly you could be losing 3 or 4 positions as you head back up the hill.
The other thing as well is the track undulation and the track camber. So you can see that at some corners it sort of favours you, the camber favours you. You use the compression to help rotate the car. Other times it pulls away from you and that washes the car out wide slightly, particularly through these long radius corners. So again, something that these drivers will have to consider when it comes to the race, and particularly late on in the race as well, when the guys are getting a little bit worse aware. You've got to make sure that you are turning in at the right point, maybe lifting off the power through a corner that is otherwise flat, or maybe even brushing the brakes, just to reintroduce some of the weight back onto the front tyres. It really is a circuit that rewards sort of that management towards the end of the race, but right now in qualifying, it's all about going flat out. They don't have a lot of time, actually, to set their qualifying laps. Often in racing events, we see them have upwards of 20, 25, even half an hour qualifying sessions. The DTM eSports, they got, what, 6.5 minutes to set their lap time, and, well, it's a minute 15 lap around here, so they're only going to get 5 or 6 laps in this session, and, well, in those 5 or 6 laps, that dictates their starting position for the entire 1 hour race, so they really do have to nail it from the get-go. Currently, it's Alessandro Ottaviani joining a new team heading into this round as well, that currently tops the timesheets with a very respectable, like I say, 1 minute 15.3 ahead of Nikodem Wisniewski.
Predictable name at the top of the leaderboard. Of course, Ottaviani, one of only 2 drivers in the field to have taken a pole position this season, having taken 2 pole positions, of course, the Italian, and he's looking incredibly strong heading into our finale in a couple of weeks' time. Meanwhile, Jonas Vanner, who we were watching on that first lap, just 4/10 of a second off at the moment, heading through that opening sector. You really don't get a chance to breathe around here. It's absolutely relentless. We're now heading through turns 5, 6, and 7, and actually Vanner's going to abandon that lap and start another one. One of the quirks of Race Room during qualifying is if you get your lap wrong and you want to restart it, you can simply reset and you're 1 corner away from the start line again, and you may quickly get on it again, so you don't have to do a full lap before you can get another chance, which really does help you set a few extra lap times. But you'd be amazed at how quickly that clock still counts down, as we now watch our current pole sitter Alessandro Ottaviani charging through turn 11 down towards the Saxon curve at turn 12. Fast left-hander, late apex, you can see there Ottaviani a little bit wide on entry, did seem to just about get to the curb on the inside. Then you've got a short run here up towards the final corner, Queckenberg, 13, uphill, off camber, super tricky, and you've got to be so careful with track limits. And Ottaviani really testing the edges there. I think he actually might have gone beyond, because he's done a quick reset there, and he's not finished that lap, Zach. So Ottaviani obviously feeling that lap wasn't going to improve, or he extended track limits. Wisniewski, in the meantime, second pole, having a good season so far, sitting inside that top 20 as it stands, and a huge CV of sim racing prowess. This man is the Williams F1 sim driver and has been for a long time, so he's been great across multiple sims over the years and currently proving his worth on Race Room as well.
He's incredible. We see him at the sharp end of basically any competition that he races in, and a part of the Williams camp as well. They carry with them the podium mentality. It's sort of a mantra that they echo through all of their divisions of esports, and it basically is just a sense that no matter what the race is, no matter what series it is, you always go in with a podium mentality, with the mindset that you can finish on the podium, that things still can come with you. No matter how you're feeling on pace, whether you're feeling the top of the world or the slowest on the field, you go in with the same mentality to succeed. And it's a mentality that has carried them forward throughout, well, their entire campaign in the world of esports. And Wisniewski currently sat P3. Tim Marshall, though, goes top of the timesheets by 76 thousandths of a second, setting himself another 1 minute 15.3. The margins are so slim, so the reason why people will just reset, they might mess up one corner, and for a lot of us, we can probably make that time back up through the rest of the lap. For these esports drivers, the minute they lose even just the slimmest of margins, they are better off writing off the lap and starting over again, because as we've alluded to, that clock is not slowing down in the slightest, and they want to make the most of their time on track, especially as Ottaviani tips him once more to provisional pole.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every single second counts here, and you could miss out on that one extra lap if you just don't quite reset in time when you know the lap's gone. So that's why you see such quick resets. Just a quick correction, I said Wisniewski was comfortably inside the top 20 in the championship. That was wrong. I don't know where I got that from, but I was sure he was. He's actually sitting 27th in the standings at the moment, so a bit of work to do for Wisniewski to try and break into that top 20. It is possible to gain that many positions, but he's going to have to score a lot of points here tonight, and starting near the front is going to help him with that. We also see the same names appearing towards the top. Ottaviani and Yarshall are two pole sitters this season, currently locking out the front row. And up goes Nicholas Hauben up into P4 on the grid. Now, this is also a man who finished in the top 4 at Oschersleben and is also in the top 4 in the championship. In fact, the top 4 finishers from the last round make up our top 4 in the championship. And look at them back again. Currently, 3 of those drivers in the top 4 once again. Only one name missing from that lineup at the moment. I'm just looking down the field to see if I can find
P18.
the other driver. P18, yeah, there you go. Jonas Vanner down at 18th. I was struggling to see his name there, but that's uncharacteristic for the German. Of course, it's not going to be hugely influential for his championship. He's nice and safe in that top 20, but he'll be looking to continue his momentum, having taken his first win last time out.
Yeah, and as well for the top drivers, it's again a statement for them, right? Heading into the final 2 rounds, both at Hockenheim and of course the Nürburgring GP layout. You want to make a statement to your fellow competitors. You want to be the one going into that with your head held high, with something to prove, and you want the other drivers to be chasing you, to be scared of you, to be looking at what you're doing in the practice session, because then you've got that psychological advantage. Maybe you've got a little bit more pressure and expectation, but it's a pressure and expectation that I would rather have than going in slightly on the back foot. So for Jonas Vanner, he's going to want to carry that momentum through. When we talk about him down in P18, he's only 4 tenths off provisional pole, as he gets tipped actually by the Hungarian of Chari. He drops to P19. The pole to P19 is 4 tenths of a second, is just incredible. Fair enough, it's only a 75-second lap, but it's quite a complex circuit here in the Sachsenring. So 4 tenths relatively is actually quite a close margin around a circuit like this, with how many opportunities there are to gain that lap time. Jonas Vanner needs to find a little bit of an extra margin. Even 2 tenths more would see him inside the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, you see that gap down, 8 tenths even to Mikovic in P23, but you're talking about 13 corners here, so you're talking maybe half a tenth a corner. It's absolutely nothing between these drivers, and that's what makes them the best in the business, of course, this top split event. It does look, however, like Ottaviani and Yarshall, the cream always rises to the top, and these two who have taken every single pole position this season stay up top. And once again, it's Ottaviani with his 3rd pole of the season. The Italian looking strong and in form as we head towards our final couple of rounds in just a little minute. So before we analyse the race and get ready for this one, we have another little video for you. Now, we showed you the little Beat the Pro preview earlier for the next round at the Nürburgring, which you can, of course, get involved with. But there's a young driver racing very well in the Ford Mustang this season in the DTM Championship. He's already taken a couple of podiums this season, and he is the pro that you're going to be looking to try and race against at the Nürburgring by taking part in this competition. So let's take a look at the video.
The DTM kicks off the second half of the season. At the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, the spectacular full-throttle racing series continues. Veteran Nicky Tim sits atop the overall standings. The Dane has been the one to beat so far in his 4th full season.
It's maximum points for Nicky Tim.
But aside from the Aston Martin driver, it's above all a rookie who is increasingly making his mark on the season.
Finn Wiebelhaus gets his first podium, a teenager. He's on the podium in his 6th race.
After a strong 3rd place finish at Lausitz, the Ford youngster narrowly missed his very first victory in his debut year on the Norrisring street circuit.
Getting a DTM podium in your first rookie year is something special, and to have it twice now already with a 3rd place and a 2nd place is something unusual and super special for me.
Wiebelhaus has had a picture-perfect career in a very short time. Just 4 years ago, the junior won the ADAC Kart Championship, moved up through Formula Sport to the ADAC GT Masters and clinched the title there as well last year. At the same time, he claimed victory in the Road to DTM series, in which young and successful up-and-coming drivers receive financial support from the ADAC.
They really helped me to develop my skills and support me on my way here.
Going from 0 to a top 10 finish in the DTM in just a few years, the Offenbach native is thus the prime example of the ADAC's promotion pyramid.
I mean, we saw from the beginning on a kind of potential in Finn, and he delivered, and I think he did exactly what we expect from him.
What's missing is that first win. After his strong performances in the past races, the rising star is definitely among the top favourites at Oschersleben. Finn Wiebelhaus, one of the most exciting talents on the grid and a great prospect for the future.
There has been a very strong rookie campaign for Finn Wiebelhaus. And another name we have to watch in years to come in the DTM, of course, a young German driver. Great to see local talent coming through the championship, and already, proven with his results this season that he's going to be around for the long haul, and it's great to see. So yeah, get yourself involved in that competition, as we say. So moving on then from the qualifying session, it's another pole position for Alessandro Ottaviani, his 3rd pole of the season. You can see here the previous pole sitters. So you've got Ottaviani in round 1 at Zandvoort, then it went to Yarshall taking another pole at the Norrisring, and then Ottaviani again rounds 4 and 5 now at the Sachsenring. So looking to make it a clean sweep, these two. And we also will show you the graphic for the fastest lap award so far this season. And once again, Ottaviani at Zandvoort, then Yarshall, and Nicholas Hauben, who's been coming on strong recently. One thing we did notice in that qualifying session, and there was actually a comment about it from Gianmarco Fiducci on the YouTube feed as well, the BMW seem to be struggling a lot. Now, we saw it with Jonas Vanner, our championship leader, way down the order, and we'll be looking to try and fight through the field here today, but not many BMWs right at the top of the field. Do you think it's a BOP thing, Zach, or, what else could it be, I guess?
I mean, I was speaking to Lucas Miller before the race, as I usually do when I'm commentating on a race that he's on. And I was like, are we going to cook tonight? And he just replied, very simple, no. And I just asked, I was like, car or talent? And he's not gotten back to me on that one yet. So I'll leave that up to interpretation. Of course, Lucas Miller is an incredibly talented driver, as of course is, Jonas Vanner as well. He's remarkable. So I would say it's probably more something slightly off with the balance performance, or maybe it's just the fact that the car not quite in tune with this circuit for whatever reason, because we are still seeing front engine cars towards the sharp end of the field. We're seeing Mercedes kind of up there, kind of competitive. So it's not necessarily an engine placement problem, but I just think throughout the season so far, we have seen the mid and rear engine Audi and Porsche just be more well-rounded, particularly at the Norrisring, we saw it as well. But that's not to say that BMW and the Mercedes can't still be competitive. I think just because the circuit maybe favours the more stable platform in the form of the mid and the rear engine cars, throughout the race, we might still see those front engine cars come through. They might be a little bit kinder on those front tyres, where of course the Audi and Porsche might scrub the fronts a little bit more through those long corners. It just means that the BMW might be a little bit more kinder to them. So when we get to the final 5 minutes of the race, that could be where we then see a late charge. And also as well, like we saw from Oschersleben, strategy is still a thing. Pure pace does not necessarily define your race. It's about how you manage from lap 1 all the way to the end, and ultimately the only lap you need to lead is the last one.
Yeah, BOP giveth and BOP taketh away, I think is fair to say. And of course, it does balance itself out throughout the season. So you do see different manufacturers winning different races. I do think the characteristic of this circuit would suit mid-engine cars based on the changes of direction and the momentum you need to carry. It just naturally, it feels like a mid-engined circuit. But we'll have to see how the race unfolds. And as you say, strategy absolutely crucial. Of course, 2 mandatory stops in today's 1-hour race. We've seen strategy come in very handy for Jonas Vanner in the past. Of course, even in the last round at Oschersleben, Vanner managed to win basically through a great strategical move. He was running in P4 in the opening stint and was able to end up taking the win. Jarschel dropping to 4th despite leading early on. So strategy will play a big part here today, and especially when it's difficult to overtake. I think we could see some drivers going for an undercut. We could see some drivers running long if there's clean air. So there's plenty more to think about than just outright qualifying pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency is the name of the game. We even saw it at Sachsenring, right, where it's quite a tight technical circuit. We saw plenty of overtakes, plenty of battles in the fight for the podium. So, yeah, by all means, qualifying does not dictate your entire race as a whole. And ultimately, the goal isn't necessarily to win this race. It's to get yourself into the top 20 in the championship. And that's going to be the main thing on these drivers' mind.
Certainly will be. We'll keep an eye out on our drivers that are around about the bubble at the moment. We won't be able to give you the official running, of course. Even at the end of this race, we can't tell you officially who's made it and who hasn't, because there may be post-race penalties, and the point system is a little bit complicated to keep an eye on the fly, let's say. But things can change in an instant in this championship. And in motorsport, things do change very often, and usually when you least expect it. So I'm very, very excited about this race here today at the Sachsenring. You've got Ottaviani and Jarschel on the front row. We'll see who gets that run down to turn 1. Drivers now on a formation lap there. You can see some of the names to keep an eye out for. You've got Florian Hasse, 17th in the championship. He starts 13th in this race. Mate Mikiewicz down in 22nd in qualifying. He is 18th in the championship. Then it's Marco Page, and I'm not actually seeing Marco Page in this race, so Marco may not be there tonight, which potentially opens up a gap for someone else. Philip Spiegel currently sits 20th on the bubble, and he's qualified 23rd for this one. You've got Sebastian Ree, Saba Hegedus, and Martin Peterman to keep an eye out for as well. 25th on the grid for Martin, 24th for Sebastian, and Saba is up in 21st. So these are the sorts of names you're going to want to keep an eye out here for in the standings for this one. You've got an hour's race, or 58 minutes left of this race as they head through the final corridor now. And you can see now out the back of that Alessandro Ottaviani Porsche, looking back at Wisniewski in the Porsche, and then Hauben in another Porsche. So 3 Porsches in the top 4. The first of our Mercedes, Tomas Ribeiro, on that 3rd row alongside Piquet Oliveira, the highest placed BMW in the starting lineup. And then it's Benecke and Muller on the 4th row. So we get ready to go then here at the Sachsenring. It's 1 round until the cut-off. It's 1 round before the finale, and this is where it counts. These drivers will be giving it everything. We wait for the green light, and away we go. Ottaviani powers away, just manages to slot in ahead of Jarschel, who moves straight to the outside. Now Wisniewski looks to the inside, looking for a move on P2, but it's going to be Ottaviani, Jarschel, Wisniewski, and Hauben looking now around the outside, and there's a spin there for Jarschel. Jarschel's around, and one of our championship contenders facing the wrong way immediately. Another Audi now facing the wrong way as well, and it's kicked off immediately here, Zach.
Yeah, that's Sven Mackenberg that got the short end of the stick there, just caught up in the opening lap chaos. And as we called during the pre-show, turn 1 was always going to be chaos. This has allowed Alessandro Ottaviani, though, to bridge a very nice gap indeed. And looking quite good on there, the 3rd row of the grid. Now he's up into P3, and guess what? In a BMW, right in amongst the mix there, at the other end of the Mix F1 Team Gaming car, Olivier Wisniewski trying to keep the barrel there as well. Benecke quietly making right now, though, we say BMW struggling. 3 cars inside the top 6. Absolutely watch that one away. Of course, it's the opening lap. See as to how well they can keep this up over the course of the rest of the race. But it's a dream start for the Italian. Ottaviani leads now by 1.2 seconds into the final couple of corners.
I think you'll find there's 4 BMWs in the top 7. So yeah, absolutely 4 plates in the bin. Speaking of BMWs, there down the inside goes Jonas Vanner, our championship leader, on Chari. So that's P13 for Vanner. In fact, Nelson as well, the other Porsche. So there's been a few drop positions there for Chari, and that will be important in this battle for P20 in the championship standings. I'm not quite sure what happened there in the opening corner. I actually started looking a little bit further back in the field right at the moment where there was the spin for Jarschel. I can imagine it may have been Wisniewski down the inside who made a bit of contact with the Audi, but we'll have to take a look at that one later on. It's a real shame for Jarschel, of course, losing out all those positions so early on. He's going to have a fun race run fight through the back of the field as we go on, but still a long way to go. What a dream start, though, for Alessandro Ottaviani. 1.3 seconds out in front in the Porsche, and he's already got some breathing space, which is something that you don't usually get here at the Sachsenring. I mean, look at this queue here. It's just car after car after car, continuing all the way through the field, and it's absolutely relentless.
Yeah, Ottaviani as well, qualifying. He's been qualifying very well so far this season. Didn't get the best of starts last time I was in the College box back in the Sachsenring. Dropped back really early on, so he's going to be quite grateful to brush that off and to, well, been able to ride that pressure, to deal with that pressure, and to control the opening phase of this race. By no means can he feel safe or get complacent, because Nicola Brzezinski will continue to hammer it. But what it does mean is that the opening phase of this race, he can save a little bit of fuel, he can take it a bit easier, he can find rhythm at his own speed without worrying about those behind him. Jonas Vanna, though, trying to make some quick work of Philip Dreiss, the NeRacing.com Porsche. On the left-hand side towards turn 1, Jonas Vanna trying to go the long way around. Opts to tuck back in and go for a switchback. Apex comes in very quickly, it was very, very close, but the advantage swings back the way of the fellow German Philip Dreiss, will keep 12th down the hill.
You can see just how tight it is here at this circuit in that opening corner. Vanna just poking a nose down the inside on the exit of turn 1, but not able to force the move, and Dreiss hangs on to that position 12 for the time being. So it's Ottaviani, Wisniewski, Oliveira up in P3, first for our BMWs, with Ribeiro in P4. Good for him to get back on the horse after difficulties last time out. Maximilian Benecke and Lucas Müller rounding out your top 6, 2 more Germans and 2 BMWs. Then you've got Turka Hakkinen, Florian Hasse, who needs this good result to really cement himself inside that top 20 tonight. Moritz Lerner in P9, and Vera rounding out the top 10, who had a really strong start to the season at Zandvoort. Hasn't been quite as strong since then as the Spaniard, but looking good here tonight, sitting inside that top 10. He's sitting 14th in the championship. We now look at Nicholas Hauben as well. Now Nicholas is 3rd in the championship as well in that Team Nitrate Porsche. He's had a good run of results. The last 2 races he's finished 5th and 2nd, having not finished inside the top 10 in the opening 2 rounds. So it's been a really strong run of form late for Hauben. But he's now currently sitting back down in P20, so looking at the worst round so far of the season for the German. Now once again, he's just going to be looking to build his confidence and gain experience, but this certainly isn't going to be helping things as he heads now to finish off the opening laps here at Sachsenring. So I guess he might as well use this as a little bit of practice for some overtakes, because he's got plenty of cars ahead of him here, Zach, to look for.
Yeah, he can go and pick them off, and you know, you're going to see a lot of these names when you get to the final. You want to learn your opponent. As much as they will be familiar with each other, you want to see how are they going to defend? Are they going to be interested in working together? Because right now, maybe you've not got as much on the line if you're securely inside the top 20. When you get to the finale, though, you will have, and you want to know your opponents. You want to know who you can race, who you can maybe give a little bit more of a squeeze to, who you can, I was going to say abuse a little bit there, that's maybe a bit extreme, but maybe who you can push off a little bit wider, who you can get elbows out with, who might, you know, relinquish a position a bit easier than another, and then those who you maybe need to be a little bit more careful with. And it's all data that will be invaluable by the time you get to the finale, on board with Moritz Lerner on the rear end of Florian Hasse, 2 drivers that of course do need a decent result just to make life a little bit more comfortable for them. Particularly Florian Hasse down in P17 in the championship has got a lot riding on his shoulders. Moritz Lerner up in P7 as well, currently running 9th. Would like to get on to the back of Florian Hasse and maybe get through to chase after Turka Hakkinen. Moritz Lerner, of course, a very famous name in the world of DTM eSports. A late duck to the inside of turn number 1, though, will get it stopped. Will reach the apex first. Look as well for Michael Vera trying to get involved in the Porsche, getting muscled wide though is Moritz Lerner, as Florian Hasse will fight tooth and nail to keep that P8 because he knows that he needs the point.
All of this literally started a lap ago. Hasse right here at turn 4 and 5 made a little bit of a mistake on the previous lap, which just dropped him a few tenths. He missed his apex, touched the grass on the outside through here, and instantly lost the slipstream. And just look how much pressure he was then under from Moritz Lerner for the entirety of the next lap. Now, if Hasse still doesn't have the slipstream of Turka Hakkinen up ahead, he's going to be feeling this pressure from the mouse driver all the way through. But the thing is, Hasse, as you alluded to, cannot afford a mistake here. He has to keep up the momentum. He has to finish strongly to guarantee himself a spot. And he's under enormous pressure from former race winner, of course, Moritz Lerner in that mouse BMW. The mouse car cannot get through there, and now Lerner's under pressure from Vera as well, so it's relentless through this field. You can see now Hasse tidying things up a little bit. He's run a bit wide on the exit there, potentially, of the Sachsenring curve, to now head towards turn 13. Once again, a bit of a dive from the BMW behind. Who's that? It's like Ronnevold getting involved down the inside of Manuel Vera. Can he make that move stick? We'll have to wait and see as we head towards turn 1, but that has given a little bit of breathing space to Lerner, who might have another go on Hasse. So 2 battles to watch at the same time. Heading down to turn 1, it's a late move, it's a dummy from Lerner. Hasse leaves him the room. Is it going to be this time? They're going to run side by side once again through the opening couple of corners, and Hasse doesn't quite have the overlap this time, so it's going to be Lerner taking that position. Great, respectful racing between the two of them, and a great opportunistic move from Lerner. But now Lerner's made the mistake potentially, and Hasse looks to the outside, and this is the side-by-side racing that we'd love to see at the Sachsenring. Meanwhile, Ronnevold did not make it past Vera, so it's basically as you were, other than these two, Lerner passing Hasse.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost an ABC advantage by contact for Florian Hasse, who did get into the rear end of Moritz Lerner and push him slightly wide. The BMW did still manage to wrap it up by the time they got to the turning point. for that uphill right-hander. So Moritz Lerner goes through, of course, like I was alluding to, a very famous name in the world of esports and DTM eSports. He a previous champion of this, and in doing so has managed to head his way into some very successful real-life exploits, potentially, and well, maybe catalyzed by his opportunity in DTM eSports. So living proof that the opportunities afforded to these drivers definitely go a long way. Moritz Lerner up into 8th position from Haase, Vera, Groenewold and Dries. Also Jonas Vanner and Chari all involved in this respective train as well. There you can see there's balance of performance. If ever you've ever needed proof, Audis, Porsches, BMWs all involved in this fight and all nose to tail in the slipstream train. 49 minutes of this race remaining, by the way, as the gap at the front reaching a little bit of a stalemate. Ottaviani and Wisniewski just keeping each other exactly where they want each other, which is not too close, but for Wisniewski, close enough that he can still see the Italian in front.
10 minutes down, 50 to go here at Sachsenring, so we've got another maybe 5 minutes before we start seeing our first pit stops, you would imagine, in this race. Of course, a reminder, there's 2 mandatory pit stops for all of these drivers, but you can take them at various points in the race, so you don't have to take them on the 20-minute mark. You can go a bit early, you can go a bit late, and we will, of course, see some drivers running it right to the end, like we saw Wisniewski do actually in the previous round. We saw Nikodem running right up the front into the last few minutes, taking a late pit stop. I believe that was at the Norris Ring, or it may have been actually, may have been Oschersleben, I can't remember which one, but you have seen him go long in the past before. I do think, though, Wisniewski now has a lot of room, clean air to run into, and that is exactly the moment where you want to use that clean air. There's no point pitting if you've got this much clean air. You know, you can continue to drive at full pace. The tyre wear is not as much of a concern in this championship, so you're not having to think about that too much. You're more just thinking about when is the perfect moment where I can duck into the pits and get out of the battle pack without losing lots of time. And speaking of battle packs, we now head down to Bo Dixon in the BMW, who's currently sitting in P60, the first time we've seen Bo today, and he's all over the back of Tim Roche, another driver who is kind of close to that bubble, you can say, in P15 in the championship right now. Chari's having a great run as well, P14. And that's a man on the outside looking in, so he'll be hoping he can pick up enough points to just squeeze into that top 20 as we head towards our finale. Bo Dixon right on the back though of Roche at the moment, just 3/10 back is the BMW as we head down the hill. We've got a train of about 5 cars here. Just noticed as well on the timing screen that Vera has gone past Haase for P9, so potentially a change of positions through that opening sector. And Haase, he's going to have to be careful here, because if he continues to drop back any further, in terms of his pace anyway, you can just see how many hungry drivers there are behind waiting to pounce. And before you know it, he's going to drop not only outside of the top 10, but potentially outside of the top 15.
Yeah, I think he defended from Moritz Lerner a bit too hard, as there's a huge send to the inside from Tobias Groenewold. We've seen him be remarkably late on the brakes. He gets it stopped through the left-hander, and well, now towards the final corner, Tobias Groenewold will take control of that up the off-camber, uphill left to finish off the lap, up over the crest as they rise over and onto the start-finish straight. Of course, Haase has to be careful here, because he can't afford to lose too many points. Ultimately, he doesn't want to park the bus too much and drop the anchors too soon, as around the outside, Philip Dries with a spectacular move initially. In doing so, just washing a bit wide through T1, leaves him susceptible from Jonas Vanner trying to get involved in the BMW, side by side down the hill between the pair of them. And Jonas Vanner will try and solidify control of that, but can't quite manage it. Yeah, at the moment, Haase just not quite got the pace to stay in front of those around him, but desperately needs the points. It's a difficult decision now, because does he drop the anchors and, well, risk getting taken out effectively, or does he try and use his head, use his racecraft, but ultimately risk dropping like a stone through the pack, just slightly slower over the course of the next 46 minutes? Florian Haase, I mean, it's unusual to see him this slow relative to those around him, but at the moment he's just getting beaten and battered to the back end of this train.
Right at that moment you said Haase should stop parking the bus. He parked the bus on the inside.
Yeah, I know.
Dries did not get his car stopped at all heading into that opening corner. And actually, I think it's quite lucky to get away with only, well, not even losing a spot, really, just maintaining his position in P12. Vanner not able to take advantage just yet, but looking potentially to send one down the inside of the final corner. Is Vanner going to do it? Yes, he is. He's just going to squeeze down the inside enough, and Dries is forced to leave that door open. Now they're going to head side by side down the pit straight. It's all about who can pick up that slipstream. It looks like Vanner's going to get it, and Dries is now under attack from Chari as well, who's having a magnificent run at the moment, the Hungarian in the Porsche. But Dries back down the inside of Vanner. It's going to be a bit of door-to-door contact now, a bit more contact as they exit. And watch out for Chari now on the outside. He's not going to take anything away from Dries at this moment, or Vanner I should say. He's going to slot back in, so not wanting to take too many risks and risk damaging that Porsche, because he's in a very important position at the moment for him. He's going to have to try and pick off as many of these drivers as possible, but he cannot afford a single mistake. So it's battles all the way throughout the field. Great to watch some of this midfield action. Just checking in with our leaders as well. Ottaviani 2.5 seconds clear now of Nikodem Wisniewski, with Kike Oliveira P3 in the BMW having a great run. Is the Brazilian up there ahead of Tomas Ribeiro in P4. There is your race leader, Alessandro Ottaviani, another man who does not need to think about pitting anytime soon because he's got all of this beautiful open air to drive into, and that Porsche is going to be loving it. You don't want to be stuck behind anyone too closely around here in the dirty air because you're relying so much on the downforce around this place to get around. So dirty air is not going to help you too much. Obviously, we do see battles with slipstreams here. Meanwhile, actually, we're seeing our first pit stop now because it looks like Wisniewski, potentially Ribeiro, all coming into the pits. So yeah, it's getting very busy on pit lane as we hit the 15-minute mark in this race.
Yeah, of course, Ottaviani, no-brainer to continue on there. Same too for Kike Oliveira and Max Benneker, who we saw at the Norris Ring do the earlier cycle of pit stops. It didn't quite work in his favour then, so this time he's going to be trying to be on the later cycle of the pit stops. We'll have to wait and see as to what can happen. Of course, it's two mandatory pit stops they have to take at some point during the race, and well, for the most part, they can split that up however they like. So we will have to wait and see as to what's to come. But yeah, I mean, interesting that we saw Wisniewski come in so early because, like we say, he had, you know, plenty of clear air. I think he has still been able to come out in a nice pocket behind Sven Mackenberg. So at the very least, that is a saving grace for him. He's got Tomas Ribeiro just in his rearview mirrors. But yeah, Wisniewski at the very least leads the train of the early cycles, which is very good indeed. It just means that he doesn't get caught up in any traffic and can basically just continue on to do what he did a bit earlier on in the race, just now by himself. And without the sight of the race leader in front of him. So Wisniewski now, it's crucial that he gets himself back up to speed and hammers in a good couple of laps, because Ottaviani just basically put his foot down, said see ya, pulled up a nice little bit of a gap, and well, now the race leader comes into pit lane for the first time this race.
Well, this is the thing. The championship is so competitive, and it's where I got it wrong. I was saying Ottaviani and Wisniewski should maybe try and stay out and use that open air. Because everyone's so closely matched in pace anyway, Zach, there are no stragglers at the back holding anyone up. These guys are dropping out way behind the back of the field. So essentially, you're continuing in that clean air. So absolutely no issues at all for an early pit stop for these two. Just getting one out of the way with a little bit of margin, of course, if anything does go wrong during the pit stop. At least with Ottaviani, he can afford to take it easy and make sure he hits his marks. And he should come out ahead of Wisniewski in P16. But we'll have to wait and see as we head now down the straight. So Wisniewski now is about to complete his lap. Ottaviani on the right-hand side of your screen there, coming out of the pit lane as we head down towards braking zone for turn 1. And it's going to be Ottaviani cleanly ahead, as we would expect. Wisniewski maybe gained a second or so in that pit stop round, although saying that, it looks like it's pretty much the same as it was before the pit stops. It's now 4 BMWs in the top 4, so just quite funny to see after that whole discussion about BOP earlier on. But it's Muller, Ronebold, Vanner and Spiegel, your top 4, of course, out of sync at the moment. This is your real race winner, race leader though, or it was at least on the right-hand side. Ottaviani in P10, Wisniewski 11th, and Ribeiro comes out in 12th, a couple of seconds behind Wisniewski as well. So the gaps remain pretty similar to what they were before the pit stops, and that is something we've seen throughout the year. These drivers are so well practiced at their pit lane entries, they can do everything within half a second every single time, and it just means that it's very difficult to actually make a gain on pit road. It's much more about your in lap and your out lap, and it looks like Ottaviani's nailing this race so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that is often sort of a bit of an oversight from drivers. You know, they spend hours upon hours focusing on, okay, make sure you hit your apexes, make sure you can get into a consistent rhythm, particularly at a top level. You're aiming to do a full race stint within a margin of plus or minus 0.2 of a second based on your fastest lap time of that stint, right? So you're talking very fine margins. That's where the focus is. And ultimately, with how close the field is, some of the biggest margins you can gain is just finding a good braking point and being consistent with your pit lane entry, because if you're too conservative, you've lost a second. Treat it as any other corner on the circuit. It's just a separate obstacle that you need to maximise and optimise. For the most part, these drivers are able to do that. There's some very big consequences as well if you're unable to. The last thing you want to do is get a speeding penalty for coming into the pit lane too hot, or even dropping your pit limiter a little bit too early before you get going again. And it's small mistakes like that can have huge consequences over the course of the race. But those are the fine margins that we talk about in sim racing, and is why sim racing, is so good at a top level in terms of the margins and the level of competition, because all of these drivers put hours upon hours of prep into the event. The margins are so slim, and we see that out on circuit. We see how much these drivers want those prizes in these high-level competitions, and while they do that absolutely best to make sure they're able to maximise. A bit of a mistake there, though, from Peterman, the P6 place BMW. relentless Hauben eyed up a bit of a move there, but well, seeing the mistake from the BMW in front of him, he's probably going to be quite eager to get through and get after the rest of that pack. But ultimately, with these late pit stoppers, they don't want to be losing too much time squabbling over each other because, well, they're clearly doing something different with the strategy. They clearly think it's the right choice to do with the strategy, and they don't want to ruin that opportunity by tripping over each other.
I do wonder if Hauben regretted not going into the pit lane there, having seen these block up into turn 1. Of course, these are important positions as well. Peterman is on the outside looking in himself at the moment. P23 in the standings, so he could really do with a great result, and currently looking pretty strong. I mean, he's running ahead of the man who is third in the standings currently that we watch right now. It's not been a great start to the race for Nicholas Hauben, but Peterman will be desperate to try and hang on to as many positions as he can. He's under all sorts of pressure now from the Team Nitro driver. Let's see if either of these drivers will do this time around. You've got your race leader, Ottoviani, is currently sitting in P10, just behind Mackenberg and Sebastian Riedt. And we do have Jonas Vanner, our championship leader, now in the pit lane. As you see, Gronewold also pitting from what was, I'm not sure if he was leading actually, or if he was just in those top few positions. There is Vanner in the Alpha 1 car. We'll see where he comes out of the pits, but already, I mean, he's almost being passed by Ottoviani, and he's not even pulled out of his pit box yet. Of course, Vanner not having a great qualifying session in this one, unlike the man we view now, who is on an absolute charge at the moment. He started the season so well with a win at Zandvoort, and then things went a little bit tricky for him at the Sachsenring, picking up a P12 in the second race, but then he bounced back to the 6th position at Norrisring and his second podium of the season at P3 last time out at Oschersleben in such a competitive field. It's been a great season for Ottoviani, who has had, of course, some changes to deal with. Team Vitality being disbanded, the team he started the season with, and he now joins eSports by SX for the remainder of this championship, and he's finding his form again at the perfect moment in the season, being chased, of course, by another man who's found his form, Tim Yarshall, who, it has to be said, has kind of given away a few good results throughout the season, but still managed 3 top 4 place finishes. These two, Zach, might well be two favourites for this championship at the moment, alongside potentially Vanner, who's struggling today.
Of course, who knows who's going to arrive at LAN as Philip Schwegel tries to come into the pit lane. That caught Tim Yarshall out slightly as he goes through to take second place. Lucas Muller leading a race, and he's going to try and soak this in and enjoy it while it lasts, because we'll see whether or not he's able to keep it by the end of this run. I do love that entry into T number 1, Ray. You know, it's a hairpin, so typically you think quite a late apex, but the nature of the corner falling away from you as you go through it, you really want to just get in early. And on board with Tim Yarshall, it's a great demonstration of talent in sim racing, and right now he's got bucketloads of it, currently running P2. But again, the offset in strategy I think is quite fascinating, and again, with these races, we often see sort of 2 or 3 ideologies. We see pretty much an even split as well. A third of the field does this, the other third, and the other third do the other 2 things. And honestly, we don't actually know which one looks the best until the final 5 minutes of the race. So the next 32 minutes of this race are going to be us figuring out which one we think is going to be the best option. Currently, though, the top 5 feel that doing something different is something they have to do. And well, right now for Lucas Muller, he's all by himself. He's got the clearest air in the world to run in and try and maximise some of the pace that he's got in that lead BMW.
Speaking of which, Lucas Muller pulls into the pits as we speak, so Yarshall will then take the lead from Hauben. I'm surprised Hauben hasn't pitted before now, because he's been in traffic the whole time, but I guess if you're going to pick anyone to follow, it should probably be Tim Yarshall, who now takes the lead of this one. So we'll see how long Muller spends in the pit lane. Meanwhile, Hauben's actually going to go for a move on Yarshall, and Yarshall says, on you go. So a switch of position between these two, who were in a decent position anyway, it has to be said, earlier in this race. But they're going to have, of course, well, until turn 1 that was, with Yarshall facing the wrong way. But what I was meaning to say is they were competitive in qualifying. So these two clearly have good pace around here. You can see Hauben also sliding the back of that Porsche as he comes up the hill. Very low on traction control settings, you can clearly see there by the tyre smoke. Something we saw a lot of at Oschersleben as well. And it's great to see these GT3 cars being put through their paces and the drivers running as little traction control as they can possibly get away with to minimise any loss in performance. Then of course you have to do a lot of dancing and balancing with your right foot to try and protect those rear tyres and stop yourself from spinning. Meanwhile, Nikovitz on the inside defending, it looks like, from Bo Dixon and Spiegel, who's just out of the pit lane. Looks like Nikovitz has managed to hang on for the moment. I thought we were going to be 3 wide into that turn 1 entry you were talking about earlier, and it's difficult when there's 3 cars side by side when you're on your own. But they sorted themselves out, thankfully. So it's Nikovitz 21st, Bo Dixon 22nd, and Spiegel in the second of those BMW. So still remaining in 23rd, with Martin Peterman out of the pits in 24th behind Spiegel. So these are all, as I say, positions. We're not going to know quite how it all unfolds until after turn 5. So So all these drivers can do is as well as they possibly can, pick up as many positions and then just hope that things around go their way. And that's not going to help things because Mikiewicz runs a little bit wide onto the gravel, and that's going to open the door now for Bo Dixon, who slides down the inside as they head through turn 10. And then you've got this flat out run down the hill of turn 11. This is the one chance on the lap where you get to breathe, but there's no breathing right now for Mikiewicz, who's under all sorts of pressure from Spiegel now. Mikiewicz defends the inside. Spiegel, I thought, was going to cut back, but no, Spiegel goes to the outside, runs just over the white line. He's not going to get that move done. And of course, that opens up the door to his teammate, Peterman, who takes the inside line, and it's P23 now for Peterman. So great battling here further down the field. And once again, all of that caused by a mistake early in the lap by battling, just one little tyre dropped onto the gravel, and it all comes unraveled. Meanwhile, we've got a car coming out of the pit lane as well. Is that Yarshall coming out of the pits? Yes, it is. So Yarshall jumps ahead of Spiegel and jumps ahead of Peterman as well, and up to P20. So still a lot of cars to pass for Tim Yarshall. It looks like he's gained at least a couple in that pit stop sign.
Yeah, P20 is not at all where you'd expect Tim Yarshall to be, though. But what did we say in the pre-show? One small mistake, going offline slightly, opens the door for someone to send a move. Whether it's a desperate dive or not, they're racing drivers, they're going to go for the gap. And in doing so, it catalyses such a big battle like we saw. Philip Spiegel will ride on board with him in the picture-in-picture, giving a bit of a bump draft, though, not interested in fighting Peterman because, well, truthfully, they're in P21 and P22. This isn't where they want to be finishing. This isn't where they aspire to be. Their dream is not to finish P21 in DTM eSports. They want to go higher than that. However, a bit of a problem was that Tim Yarshall going off into the gravel.
Yeah, it looks like it may well have been. Yeah, Yarshall down to 24th, so something going on there for the Audi driver, and he's looking like having his second nightmare round of the season. In fact, he already is having that nightmare. It's not looking like anything. It's happening. Yarshall's already down in 24th. He's 35 seconds off the lead. We don't quite know what happened there, but he's right down the back of the pack here, which is unfortunate. We've got a couple of drivers, by the way, take their second pit stops already. So Philip Drace and Julian Kunze down in 25th and 26th, both having taken 2 stops. I do wonder if that is strategic or maybe there's a penalty involved. We'll have to wait and see. But it's with 33 minutes to go, it is possible, of course, to take that second stop nice and early. Meanwhile, Ottaviani only 3.3 seconds off Mackenberg, who is the final driver yet to make his first pit stop. And Mackenberg's a name we always see taking interesting strategical decisions. The Mackenbergs tend to try some crazy stuff every so often, and this is looking like one of those moments for Mackenberg. But again, he's got all this clean air now to run into. It might well work for Sven, of course, this strategy. And of course, it's also nice to just lead a race every once in a while. To be able to say you're leading the DTM eSports round at Sachsenring is a pretty cool thing to say. So kudos for Sven for keeping on out there in his Audi and leading this race by 2.8 seconds. Ottaviani's pace is extraordinary.
Yeah, exactly that. 2.8 seconds off the back of Sven Mackenberg, who, is a regular in the world of Race Room eSports. He has been in countless ranked events, has won countless ranked events, and a part of the Unlimited eSports team as well. Patrick Jari down the inside into the final corner. That's against Florian Haase, who continues to tumble down the order. And we'll get side by side with Bo Dixon as they rise up over the crest. This is the battle as they shuffle their way through. Kaiki Oliveira, Thomas Ribeiro, all into the pit lane. Moritz Lerner as well, following them in. So as such, the grid will shuffle back to what it was pre-pit stop window for these guys. Now they're fighting a little bit further up the field, and while getting a truer picture as to where they actually stack up relative to everyone else. Sven Mackenberg, though, the only driver, and it's always the Mackenbergs. Always. They always do something crafty, whether it's fuel saving or trying something different. I remember back the Daytona 2.4 hours a couple of years ago. It was a clear 2-stop, and both brothers tried the 1-stop. They slipstreamed off each other, and they almost made it work. And the thing that denied them wasn't a lack of talent and a lack of fuel saving, it was a disconnect, which was heartbreaking for them. But they always try something different. They're always absolutely rapid, and yet will still try and make the difference in the pit lane. And maybe we'll see it come to fruition for Sven Mackenberg, who of course had the problems on the opening lap, and well, now he's got nothing to lose. He might as well try it. Bo Dixon trying to put some pressure though onto Nicholas Halban down the hill, but the BMW can't find the measure and can't find a way through to the inside of the left-hander.
Let's see if we can do anything then heading into the final corner. He's not going to go for a crazy move, which makes sense, so Bo Dixon's going to focus on the exit. Meanwhile, Haase, who does continue to struggle, as you say, runs a bit wide into the last corner. Dixon into the pit lane meanwhile, but Halban's going to have a great run here on Florian Haase from P12. And of course, with many drivers taking their second pit stop, this is a net P15 or 16 that they're actually battling for. So Haase did drop those positions like we were concerned might happen based on the mistakes we saw earlier from the German. Looks like Halban has made that move on Haase, so it takes P12 Haase down to 13th. Meanwhile, Ottaviani has caught Mackenberg, as we said. and I'm sure we'll see Mackenberg go into the pits relatively soon, but Ottaviani's going to have to make this move done on circuit. So the first bit of traffic that Ottaviani's dealt with all day, and great sportsmanship from Sven Mackenberg. He knows he's in a different race, having not made that pit stop, and he's not going to make things difficult for Ottaviani, even though technically he had the right to fight for that position. He's not going to waste anyone's time. He'll let Alessandro Ottaviani go through, and what are we going to see Mackenberg do? Is Mackenberg going to keep on going? Looks like for now he is, so the Audi continues on in P2. I just want to say something else that I've spotted here. Wisniewski in P3, who's just pulled into the pit lane, had actually built a really strong gap over the likes of Hakkinen and Muller. Now, I know that there's a few drivers have taken their second stops, the likes of Beneke and Ribeiro, so we've got to see what happens when Wisniewski comes out the pits compared to those guys. But I think this has been a really strong, short second stint for Wisniewski, who pits with 30 minutes to go, so it's 2 15-minute stints for the pole, and he's having just a really, really solid race at the moment, isn't he, Zach? So this is going to be great points for Wisniewski, and he's down in 27th in the standings at the moment. But I do wonder if, a top 3 result here could actually be enough to elevate him into that top 20. It's going to be very challenging, but he's doing everything he can do within his own power to actually make that happen.
Yeah, ultimately, what's happened in the past is the past. You can't go back and redo the first 4 rounds of the championship. What are you in control of? It's right here, it's right now. Side by side as well, Nicholas Halben with, that's Tom Roche with Nicholas Halben. Patrick Jarry just in behind them, trying to get involved. But yeah, I mean, he's doing exactly everything that is in his power to do so. And those in front of him, Dautzenberg is down. We've got Patrick Jarry outside of the top 10 currently as well. Lutkovski isn't here. Martin Peterman is down to the back end of the field. Same to Hegedus. Sebastian Rey's not even on the grid for today. So he's in front of the key people he needs to be in front of. And with the way that the points are awarded, you are hugely awarded and benefited for finishing higher up. Obviously you are, but what I mean by that is the points gain in between each position is more and more. Nicholas Halben straight down the inside of the bottom end of the hill will try and take the position, and finally into the pit lane comes Sven Mackenberg for his first stop of the day, just over halfway into this race. Taka Hakkinen and Manuel Vera will also go in to serve their second stops as well, but that's just how offset Sven Mackenberg is. A couple of people doing their second stops of the day, he's on his first.
Yeah, it kind of almost breaks your brain a little bit, because it feels like he's making a stop along with everyone else, but he's still got one to do, of course. So we will see Mackenberg drop further back a little bit later on, but kudos to him for trying something different, and it was good to see him right up there at the top of the order. And speaking of the top of the order, Nicholas Halben is making his way through. Now, I know he's P6 at the moment, and that is not technically where he is, because of course we've seen so many drivers now making their second stop, but I do think it's been a good recovery from Howden after the struggles earlier on in this race. He's making some good moves, and he is going to find himself, I reckon, comfortably inside the top 20 after the second round of stops. Chari's having a great race as well, we've mentioned a couple of times. Wisniewski also having a superb race, and one of the first drivers here to have made 2 stops, in fact the very first driver, so he has got comfortably out ahead of both Beneke and Ribeiro, who he was battling with earlier on. So it's still a net P2 for Wisniewski, and even though he's down there in the championship in P27, we know that Nikodem Wisniewski is one of the best racers in this field. He's got so much experience, as I alluded to earlier, across multiple disciplines and across many years of sim racing. So this is a man who was picked up by Williams for a reason. So it's not a surprise to see him up there in P2, but he will be very much enjoying those lofty heights. And speaking of enjoying, I think Gianmarco Fiducci in the chat is very much enjoying watching this race, and missing his own sim racing eSports. So shout out to Fiducci. Great to have you watching this one, and yeah, maybe get yourself involved again next season in the DTM eSports Championship.
Yeah, I do have a soft spot in my heart for Gianmarco Fiducci. He is,
don't we all?
I mean, he's just a stud. As simple as that. It's the only way you can put it. Thomas Ribeiro on the outside of that, of course, is that's going to be Max Beneke, the Mouse eSports BMW. Bit of contact between the pair of them, but rubbing his race. At the end of the day, Max Beneke will muscle his way past and hold firm through turn number 1. Nicely done from the German for Mouse eSports. Again, another driver that has, well, won at the highest possible level of sim racing against the likes of Porsche Coanda, against the likes of Team Redline on other platforms, and definitely sort of established his legacy as one of the best in sim racing, and even doing so here on DTM eSports on what is a fairly unfamiliar platform for him, fighting at the sharp end of the field. He's already done both of his pit stops and, well, could be eyeing up the top 5 position when everything shuffles its way round. Thomas Ribeiro, though, you can see the front bonnet of that Mercedes AMG a little bit crumpled in, so definitely shows to me that he's not been shy to give the car in front a little bit of a tap, and a little bit sideways as well. You can see dipping a wheel beyond the white line and doing so again there. Thomas Ribeiro clearly pushing very, very hard to stay in contention.
Yeah, we know that Mercedes has a long bonnet, and Ribeiro obviously doing what he can to shorten it a little bit. Meanwhile, our race leader Ottaviani pulls into the pit lane for his second stop. So we'll see where he comes out. I would expect him to be a good 3 or 4 seconds ahead of Wisniewski, because we know how well practiced Ottaviani will be with these pit stops. Tomas Ribeiro, though, the man we watch right now in this Mercedes, as Ottaviani comes out of the pit lane and is comfortably ahead of Wisniewski, who you will just about see there in the distance in that Porsche. So it is as we were. But yeah, Ribeiro I wanted to mention because he's had a phenomenal season on Race Room, doing a great job in all of the special events that have been taking place on the new ranked system. So this is a man who's very much come into form in 2026 and is now mixing it amongst the best. Obviously in this championship, the caliber of competition is incredibly high, with all that prize money up for grabs. That's why you've got the likes of Lerner, Beneke, Wisniewski, all these big names racing for this championship. But Tomas Ribeiro, absolutely a contender here, and can hold his own in this field, as well as doing bits on Race Room week in, week out in that Mercedes. So this Portuguese driver is definitely a dark horse as we head towards our finale. Currently P9 in the championship standings, but has the capability of really putting himself in contention for this one. So keep an eye on that name, Tomas Ribeiro, in P12 for the future. Has of course made 2 stops here today, just like Wisniewski, who we ride on board with. That's the view out the front of the Porsche. You can see just up ahead the other Porsche of Ottaviani, and the gap is a little bit smaller, I would say, than it was before the stops, but we're talking maybe less than a second difference here. But that is your lead 2 cars that have made both pit stops and will be your leaders once everything has shaken out here. We've got Muller, Groenewold and Vanner once again going long on this second stint. And I say going long, it's not really long. If you were to split all the stints up evenly, we'd still be talking about drivers having made 1 stop at this stage with 24 minutes to go. So it's clear to me that lots of drivers are very eager to get that stop over and done with, and then just focus on that final stint, go to the end, and not have to think about strategy anymore. I think a lot of drivers just trying to get it out of the way, essentially.
First of all, did I say Sachsenring wasn't racing? I'm clearly blind, and he is. He's in P7. No idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, no, I think that is the case, right? You want to leave opportunities open, and fuel and tyre wear is not a concern in these cars. So, realistically, you can do the whole hour on a single stint if they were permitted to. Of course, that's not the case. So I think they do just want to position themselves best for that final stint and push as hard as they possibly can for the final stint. Make sure they're out on circuit and they can really see as to what they need to do. What job do they need to do? If they offset themselves so far that they're coming in with 5 minutes left to go, if they have made a mistake in terms of the strategy, it doesn't give them very long to amend it, right? So I think a lot of these drivers do just want to get those stops out of the way and have a flat out full rhythm, full momentum pushed in as much as they possibly can going into the later part of this race. We'll have to wait and see as to what decision is the best one, and well, everyone makes the right decision when they've got the benefit of hindsight. Currently, none of them do as things stand. Moritz Lerner, though, the BMW, not the best car in qualifying, definitely coming into its own though in the race. Currently P1, P2 and P3, albeit between 3 drivers that haven't taken their second stop yet. But it definitely seems to be a little bit kinder on its tyres, definitely seems to have the consistency, maybe the stability that a lot of other cars lack over the course of a race distance, because very clearly the pace it lacked in qualifying, it's kind of making up for in the race.
Yeah, I mean, even from that first lap, when 4 of them were inside the top 7, you could see that the BMWs were not going to be too far away. And obviously we talk about BOP, but you are talking maybe a 1/10 or 2 of a second here and there. So there's really not much in it at all. And you know what else helps Mark do a good job? It's the drivers that you have driving the cars, and BMW very well represented here today. The likes of Lucas Muller, who's just pulled into the pit lane, multiple champion on Race Room in various series, and obviously a top driver in DTM eSports in the past as well as this season. Not maybe having his best season actually relatively, but a top driver. Moritz Lerner, another former DTM eSports champion, P11 at the moment, also in that Mouse BMW and winning races this season. And I mean, there are so many names in those BMWs. I mean, Maximilian Beneke we've not even mentioned yet. More, Turka Hakkinen has been doing bits as well. Oliveira, so many top drivers representing BMW in this championship, and one of them is just taking a little peek down the inside of that damaged Mercedes of Tomas Ribeiro, who is hoping that the rear end also doesn't get squished like the front has been in that Merc, because it's a little bit flatter as it stands. But Lerner, of course, an experienced driver and a very clean, lovely guy, Moritz Lerner, really friendly, positive driver, and not the kind of guy that gets involved in the messy stuff too often. Having said that, at the top level of esports, you do have to get stuck in every once in a while, and these drivers, push things close to the edge. So you will still see the odd mistake from the likes of Moritz Lerner, but he's definitely a driver who knows how to race cleanly and respectfully, and that's exactly what we're seeing here as he chases down Tomas Ribeiro. Another driver at the top of his game, of course, Tim Yarshall, P21, having a nightmare as it stands at the moment, and he's just behind Oliveira now. So once again, trying to get back into the top 20, having fallen out twice. But yeah, it's been a strange season for Yarshall, really. He's probably been the name that, if you had dropped rounds, would be at the top of the standings. Much like last season as well. I think Yarshall would have won the championship if it wasn't for penalty points. But he's just had a couple of absolute shockers. And the thing about this format, Zach, this season you can afford to have a couple of shockers as long as you don't have a shocker at the finale. So Tim Yarshall, despite this, won't be too worried.
Yeah, get him out the way. You know, bottle a couple of races, get it out the way. Moritz Lerner, late dive to the inside of turn number 1, though, will get the anchors on. And the Mercedes of Thomas Ribeiro will try and go the long way around. Gives him the inside for the next left and will establish control down the hill once more. A very steep decline. Moritz Lerner, very keen to find his way through. As is usually the case with the Mouse eSports drivers, very aggressive. Not scared to go for those moves, but very rarely do they overstep the mark. They are a clean bunch, aggressive, passionate, definitely, but by no means dirty. So Moritz Lerner getting the anchor stop there, but still affording enough racing room to the outside for the Mercedes. Knew when to back out of that one as well. They have also got Max Benneker, just a second clear of them, so Moritz Lerner would like to dispatch the Mercedes and get after his teammate to try and maybe work together between the two Mouse cars, especially as Thomas Ribeiro, I mean, I think he is at his limit, right? Max Benneker probably, maybe he's not chilling, but he's quite a comfortable pace. I think what we're seeing from Thomas Ribeiro is he is extracting 100% of his own capabilities and his potential to be fighting at this stage, which means that he is on the ragged edge of what that car can handle, at the ragged edge of what he can handle, and ultimately it means there's not very much margin for a mistake, and we have seen a couple of twitches and chinks in the armour of Thomas Ribeiro so far this race, so I think Moritz Lerner can play the patient game ever so slightly and maybe even wait for a little bit of a mistake. Inside opens up once more in towards T number 1. Moritz Lerner will go for the move, and once again we'll get it stopped. This time he can argy-bargy his way through, still side by side down the hill once again.
Great racing between these two, almost a carbon copy of the previous lap, but Lerner managed to get stuck in a little bit more this time and managed to hold on alongside Ribeiro, and this time making the move stick. And it's exactly like you said, aggressive, hard, but fair and respectful between the two. And Lerner, you know, saw the gap, went for it, but didn't, you know, force Ribeiro super wide or anything like that. Just kind of squeezed into a gap and just pried it open ever so slightly. Proper GT3 racing between these two, and it's great to see. And yeah, as you say, Ribeiro does look like he's on the limit of that car, and of course, with no other Mercedes in the field, it's kind of difficult to know where the Mercedes should be. You would think the fact that Ribeiro's the only man in the top split representing the Mercedes mark does say that potentially Mercedes isn't the car to pick for this particular championship. But, you know, we know how good Ribeiro is. It's difficult to know where he'd be if he was maybe in a BMW or a Porsche, for example. But he's doing a great job nonetheless. And yeah, it's just difficult because you can't compare him to anyone else directly with this fixed situation that we have in the DTM eSports Championship. And immediately, as you can see there, he was under pressure from Turka Hakkinen in the BMW behind. So Ribeiro's going to have his mirrors full for the rest of this race, one would imagine. Meanwhile, there's Oliveira heading down the hill, defending from Yarshall, who dives to the inside, and Yarshall is going to go for that one. There's surely going to be a bit of contact, but no, Oliveira just about leaves a car's width and actually manages to hang on. So it's great defensive driving there from Kaiki Oliveira, holding on from Yarshall, who's going to focus on that exit up the hill, and that mid-engined Audi has the grunt down the straight, but can he get past the BMW? I think he's not quite got the run there, so Oliveira looking safe for now in P19.
Yeah, interesting to see Kaiki Oliveira so low down, particularly because he qualified so well as well, did Kaiki. One of the most wholesome drivers in sim racing as well, but equally, as soon as he gets into the sim, he's ruthless for BS Plus competition. A wildly successful team in the world of sim racing and real world racing with their hybrid athletes, both in the sim and in the real world. Tobias Grunewald, nonetheless, coming back into the pit lane to serve his second mandatory stop of the day with 17 minutes remaining. Tobias Grunewald we'll have to wait and see as to where he is in the pecking order, because truthfully, we don't really know as to where he's going to shuffle in. Right now, all that we do know is it's Ottaviani with a very comfortable net race lead ahead of Nikodem Wisniewski. Max Benneker currently runs a net P3 also. Grunewald, he's going to be seeing all of his rivals race past him as he sat stationary in the pit lane, hoping that he can get back out onto circuit in a respectable position to do something for the final part of this race.
It's been a more than respectable season so far for Grunewald, currently sitting 8th in the championship standings, so right up there in the mix, and a name we maybe haven't talked about too much as a headline grabber, but it's just been, you know, steadily picking up big points every single time, and he's doing the same again here today. Currently P13, so maybe not the best race of the season for the German, but it's been a strong season all around for Grunewald, and as we say, we've not necessarily seen him hit the highs of some of the drivers around him, but he's just picked up the points and he's going to be right there in the mix come finals in a couple of weeks' time. Julian Kunze up ahead, the Porsche driver, another name that's been around on Race Room for a long time. I remember racing against Julian back in the 1930s. Okay, maybe not that long ago. Maybe it was about 2017 or 2018 or something like that. But Kunze is, has been at the top level on Race Room, and it's great to see him still being so competitive these days as well. Currently sitting P12 in that Porsche. And as you've been talking about, there are plenty of drivers in this field that are, really good across multiple different platforms, which I think is such a great skill for a sim racer to have. You can either really focus on one and become an absolute pro on one, or you can sort of spread your efforts across multiple different sims, like with Oliveira, for example, that you're talking about. He's been mega competitive across multiple different sims over the years. But then you have some drivers that just decide, I'm going to focus on one and become the best on that particular platform. And I would say Ottaviani, despite him being a very versatile driver as well, I think Race Room really suits the Italian. I think he's always been up there on Race Room, very competitive, and this might just be the moment where Ottaviani elevates himself from being a top contender to an actual champion.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, being part of the Vitality camp before they ultimately disbanded, part of a camp that boasts, very quick drivers on specific platforms, but across sim racing as well. The likes of Marcel Cinchik, Yuri Toman, just to name a couple. Thibaut Casabon, were his teammates. He was surrounded by such experience, and ultimately now is crafting his own legacy, albeit maybe not under the Vitality banner anymore. Now with DTM eSports, who themselves are very good, especially on the Race Room platform. Look at the likes of Lucas Müller, just as one of them, to have gone through and made history in his own right. So yeah, we'll wait and see what the future holds for Ottaviani. But at the very least, in this race in isolation, he has shown himself to be not only one of the best in Race Room, but one of the best in sim racing. And we are seeing that culmination of talent. Like we've seen Thomas Ribeiro, unbelievably quick on the Race Room platform, but you're now going up against big names coming from other walks of sim racing, as that's a huge dive down the inside from Lucas Müller, the reigning champion, gets it all sorts of wrong through T number one. And I'm afraid he's probably going to have to hold his hands up and say that he was a missile that was not prepared to stop into T number one. And we'll probably have to send to the Portuguese driver a bit of an apology message after this one, because that move was not on in a million years.
Yeah, that Mercedes has got enough dents on it as it is, and it's now the door that's taken the hit that time. It was a bold move from the reigning champion Müller, and just didn't quite manage to get it pulled off, did he, and get it stopped. And it was a valiant defensive effort in the first place from Ribeiro, but all of that gets undone, of course, in that moment. And we can expect the stewards to be keeping a close eye on that one. Müller, though, continues in P7 for the moment, and Ribeiro finds himself dropping down to P10. But once again, we talked about this already. It's not that important where you finish in this race for anything other than glory and confidence. The points will actually reset heading into the finale, so it's all about getting into that top 20. Ribeiro comfortably inside the top 20 anyway, so along with the other drivers who are probably, I would say, maybe the top 12 or 13 in the championship, who can afford to take a breath, this race really is a chance to have some fun, to give it a go, and also just to build more experience in the car, make more mistakes, learn from those mistakes heading in. And even something like that, where it wasn't necessarily Ribeiro's fault, he was the defensive driver, and Müller went in a bit hot. Ribeiro might still learn something from that incident and might be able to go, okay, heading into the finale, if I see someone making a move like that, maybe I'll give them a little bit more room, and maybe it won't end up with me losing out as a result. So obviously that's just a single example, and that might be terrible advice, but you get the idea. The race is all about learning as much as possible, and the more bad experiences you have in these cars, the more it's going to help you avoid those experiences in the future.
When I am coaching, some academy drivers and junior drivers who are trying to get into sim racing, one of the first things I teach them when it comes to racecraft is the "what do you expect" mentality, which is fair enough. You've got the right of way, cool. Fair enough. You weren't at fault for the incident, but you were still in the incident, and you go into a corner, maybe side by side through, say, Maggott and Beckett. By the rules, fair enough. You can go for it. But what do you actually expect to happen? Naturally, something is going to go wrong. So Thomas Ribeiro squeezing the gap there with Lucas Müller, trying to go around the outside of a driver who very clearly was not getting it stopped for the corner. He was not at fault for the incident, and ultimately came out worse as a result. Just because you aren't at fault by the rulebook doesn't still mean you have a responsibility to try and avoid the incident, purely from a selfish point of view of trying to keep yourself in the race and get the best opportunity that you can to maximise your points throughout a race as well. So maybe a mentality that needs to be adopted heading into finale, because the last thing you want to do is get involved in something that maybe isn't your fault, but is still avoidable. And you know, you don't want to miss out on what is a very big prize pool in DTM eSports, purely because you've had the stubborn mindset to turn into a corner that you were always going to get taken out of. Nonetheless, Nicholas Halban leads the race, but it's Alessandro Ottaviani who has completed his mandatory pit stops. He currently runs P2 overall. Meanwhile, it's an absolute frenzy through the rest of the pack. Ottaviani, a glorified test session up in front, and well, it's well, I don't know, try and describe this. What is a word that does this justice? Just the absolute mayhem that is the mid-pack of this field.
It's a cluster something, I think we'll go with. But currently, Peterman right in the middle of it with teammate Spiegel. By the way, I'm going to sign up for the Zach Sweeney School. That sounds great. That's words of wisdom, wisdom beyond your years. So yeah, I totally agree. I think just because someone else gets a penalty for an incident you're involved with doesn't mean you want the incident to happen. You know, and in this race it doesn't matter so much, but maybe there's something to learn there. Halban, meanwhile, into the pit lane, so relinquishes that lead that he built up as a one-stopper, of course, making his second mandatory stop. And Hasse also in the pits, and it's going to be interesting to see where Hasse comes out. Another name that's around about the bubble in this championship for P20, and he's been, you know, great qualifying, started up right near the top, and has just slowly dwindled back towards the midfield in this race, and now, as you can see, dropping outside of that top 15 and will continue to drop further, it looks like. Meanwhile, it looks like Halban has settled in I was going to say 13, but no, he's just dropped to 14, so Doutsenberg's got down the inside. This is that crazy cluster heading into the opening corner, and it's Oliveira involved now, who's being passed by Jarschel on the inside. Oliveira's going to leave a car's width, but Jarschel does manage to get the Audi stopped, however backs out of that one on exit, so it will be continuing to be Oliveira ahead of Jarschel, and then Hegedus back there in P20, another name we need to keep an eye on. I think Hegedus is actually 22nd in the championship, so right on that bubble. And P20, okay, it's a decent enough result if you're just on the right side of the bubble because it's safe, but is it enough if you're just outside the bubble looking in? I'm not so sure. It depends on how many other drivers are having issues. Of course, you've got the likes of Page, who's not here tonight, 19th, so you're going to gain a position from that. But other than that, it looks like all the other main contenders are here, so yeah, I don't know if that's going to be enough, but we'll have to wait and see until after the event has been completed. What a great race, though, this pack are having. We've seen action throughout this one, non-stop, continuously for almost an hour, and I can't believe there's only 8 minutes to go in this race, but I'm sure these drivers in this battle pack right now, I think there's 8 or 9 cars spread by just 2 or 3 seconds, must be having a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. There you can see the two Maus drivers reunited, Maximilian Benneker and Moritz Lerner, flying in formation. That's going to be some great social media opportunity for the Maus photographer to get some nice snaps as the sun sets here at the Sachsenring as they rise over the crest. Very picturesque circuit because of the undulation, and that Maus livery, I always say it does look very, very good indeed. Currently running 3rd and 4th, and well, that is their net position, and right now all they need to do is bring that home. Both drivers in a great position to qualify themselves for the finale. Both drivers in a great position to do very well in the finale. And it's always good when you've got a teammate. Maus, they are such a professional outfit, one of the best in sim racing, invest so many resources into their sim racing team. And as a result, you know, they've got some of the best talent. They recruit the best talent in sim racing. So to have both Maximilian Benneker and to have Moritz Lerner heading into the final, that is an advantage that not very many others in this field can boast.
Absolutely, and yes, these guys are 5th and 7th in the championship, and it's not, you know, 1st and 2nd, but you have to say that it doesn't really matter. You know, this is an experienced team with so much pedigree at the top level of sim racing, and we've seen it in other championships before. When there's this sort of format which all leads towards a final, where you're just accumulating enough points to be there, and once you're there, you can then fight for the win. It does encourage, you know, some of the best in the business to actually try and think outside the box. So maybe instead of focusing on winning each race, it's what can we learn? You know, maybe these two have been practicing more on the Nürburgring and Hockenheim in preparation for the final rather than other rounds that we've been to this season. It does make sense as a strategy. We saw it in real life motorsport as well. Even last season in the likes of the Supercars Championship, Chaz Mostert wasn't competitive all season, got into the final format, and suddenly the team come alive. They've been working on things all season that are all focused on that final run to the title, and he comes and wins his first championship. So there are different ways you can go about this, not sandbagging necessarily, but just focusing on different areas of priority. And some drivers, of course, aren't going to be thinking that deeply about it. They're just going to be trying to win every race, which is also a totally valid strategy, by the way. But I wouldn't be surprised if Maus were putting all of their efforts and all of their eggs into that finale basket. So yeah, definitely another 2 names to keep an eye on in that final. There are so many names, of course, with the points resetting to 0. Literally any of our 20 drivers are good enough to win. Of course, some are more likely than others. and Ottaviani is going to be right up there. Jarsel's going to be right up there. But there are so many drivers outside of that top 3 or 4 in the championship that are well within a shout of winning this title. So DTM eSports 2026 is certainly going to be an exciting finale to the season. I cannot wait for that one. But we've got an exciting finale coming up to this race, of course. Jarschel right in the middle of this big battle pack we've been keeping an eye on. Behind Tim Roche currently in another one of our Audis, and Jarschel's going to get a good exit from that last corner. So it's going to be a slipstream battle down the pit straight. To the inside goes Roche in a defensive manoeuvre. Jarschel to the outside, and you've got Higueras, who's going to be looking for every single position he can get here. Looking down the middle at the moment. But Jarschel gets it done around the outside. Can he get it stopped? He can. And it was a bit safe from Roche on the inside. All, of course, very respectful and clean, but Roche didn't quite manage to send the car in deep enough to hold that position. And it's great stuff from Jarschel. Another little mistake from Roche, and through comes Higueras. Up into P18 potentially. Now he's going to be on the outside, so he's got to watch his mirrors, but those two have just managed to get a little bit of breathing room ahead of Peterman, Spiegel and Sebastian Ries. So it is Jarschel from Roche from Higueras, 17, 18 and 19. And this battle will continue, I'm sure, all the way to the checkered flag in 5 minutes' time.
Now, I don't know the ins and outs of people's prep, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if some of our front runners, those who are very safe in qualifying for the final, have already started prep. And that is an advantage that they have by securing the first 4 rounds of the championship. So when we talk about, you know, the top 20 in the championship, it's largely inconsequential. If you're sort of P1 to P10, you're in a very good position to maybe write off the last couple of rounds of the championship, not entirely, but do significantly less prep and focus on the 2 rounds. We already know what the 2 tracks are going to be, and that's the beauty of sim racing. They can be running as many laps on those 2 tracks as possible, Hockenheim and the Nürburgring, and I wouldn't be surprised if already they're at a very decent level, just, you know, minimizing practice for this, maybe only doing a couple of hours to, you know, show up and get some decent points, and then focusing on the finale. A bit further back though, in this mosh pit, I'm sure these drivers have invested hours upon hours to give themselves the best chance possible at qualifying and scraping into the finals. Csaba Higueras, one of them, who's right on the cusp of it, was P20 a couple laps ago, makes the move, finds his way through, and now into P18 with 4 minutes to go.
Sorry, I muted my mic unfortunately on the VMix by accident, but we're back. Still plenty of time for things to change around here with 4 minutes to go, or maybe not plenty of time, but plenty of opportunities because of how crazy these drivers are and how many different places they can find ways of overtaking here at the Sachsenring. You did say it was a beautiful sunset, and I'd have to agree with you. The lighting on Race Room is something that's improved a lot in the last few years, and it is looking fantastic, seeing all of these cars in their wonderful liveries. And this is one of them, Nikodem Wisniewski, who's potentially the star of the show here today. Currently P2, despite being a lot further back in that championship at the moment. But he will be looking to make huge inroads and potentially squeeze into that top 20. We'll just have to wait and see what can happen. But it's been a stellar performance from the pole. He's 8.5 seconds behind Ottaviani, and so he's not going to be looking to fight for the win here. But he's got such a big margin on Beneke and Lerner. It's going to be a safe run to the end. He just needs to avoid any major mistakes here. And you can see a back marker there. I think that looks like Mackenberg potentially just up in front of Wisniewski, but nothing to really stress about, to be honest. Same for Ottaviani, of course. 8.8 seconds clear in the lead of this race, and looking absolutely nailed on to become the first double winner of the season. He won the first time out at Zandvoort. He looks like he's going to make it 2 wins here at the Sachsenring with only 2.5 minutes to go. So a couple of more laps, maybe 3 more laps. These guys are already on lap 44, so they really do fly by here at this circuit. But you have no time to breathe. It's a properly physical place to go around. Of course, one of the rare anti-clockwise circuits we have on the DTM calendar, with far more left-handers than right-handers around here. And it's just a track that, you know, you get to the end of the race and you're going to really enjoy the fact that you've made it to the end in one piece with a good result. You're going to be tired, and you're it's going to be a good feeling for any of these drivers who've had a good one here today.
Yeah, 100%. There's the Mouse driver still driving in formation, trying to keep Lucas Müller, who I have to say I'm very impressed with. He came into this round not 100% confident in terms of his pace. His strategy has been able to put him into P5. We'll ignore the well, how do we put this? The shenanigans down into T1 with Thomas Ribeiro from Lucas Müller. That aside, it's been a great display for them. And BMW, you lot need to grow up. You're P3, P4, P5 and P6. Fair enough, maybe the Porsche has got the advantage, but the balance of performance on Racestream is the closest basically across any sim racing platform. You know, you wouldn't see this level of competition on any other sim, and I think Racestream really do hit the nail on the head with this one. Fair enough, maybe the Porsche has had the slight advantage. The BMW may be struggling slightly on that front grip as the Mouse drivers will swap positions down the hill. Moritz Lerner trying to make his way through on Max Benneker. But yeah, the BMW maybe lacked the pace in qualifying. Not the case at all in the race. It's Lerner, Benneker, Müller and Hakkinen from 3rd down to P6. A really good showing from all 4 of them so far this race as they head on to what will be the penultimate lap of this one. Ottaviani leading 9.1 seconds as they cross the line. That's going to fluctuate, of course, but near enough 9 seconds clear of Nikodem Wisniewski.
Yes, we should have 2 more laps here at Sachsenring. Ottaviani, though, can afford to just relax and enjoy the scenery. Just going to have to keep on going for a couple more laps and it will be all wrapped up then for the Italian as with the clock hits 1 minute mark and we head towards the end of the race here. As you say, BMW potentially surprising with 4 cars there inside the top 6. Lerner, Benneker, Müller and Hakkinen showing that if you have the right drivers and you have the right mindset, you can make it work no matter how the pace is. And again, proving that the BOP has been strong this season. You know, everyone, even when drivers feel like they've not got a chance because their car's not quick enough, you can still manage a great result despite how close everyone is matched. And this has been one of the standout battle packs of the entire race here. Sebastian Ree down in 22nd will be looking to do everything he can to break into that top 20. Spiegel currently also near the bubble in 21st and Peterman also near the bubble in P20. So all of these drivers, you know, in and around about P20 in the race, also in and around P20 in the championship. Just saw a change of position for Müller and Benneker, I believe. So Müller has got past Maximilian Benneker in the mouse car. So that's P4 for the reigning champion. But yeah, Ree looking in his mirror with Hassa right behind, who's dropped all the way down to 23rd. And that is what's going on here. Benneker back into the pit lane. Hang on a minute, is this a penalty? What's gone on here with Benneker?
Could be incident limit caused, but he's... What is going on?
He stopped.
Is he serving? Truly, I have no idea. We'd have to ask him. That's a shame. Probably why he didn't put up much of a fight relative to his teammate. I don't think it's going to be disastrous enough to see him out of contention and out of the top 20. He'll still be joining us. And thankfully, he's going to be thankful that he built up the margin over the last few rounds. But yeah, that's disastrous there for Max Benneker. And, well, a surefire podium, or at the very least a surefire top 5 for him, now written off with an unusual incident on the final lap. But here's our race winner, Alessandro Ottaviani, into the final corner.
Certainly, it's been textbook stuff from Ottaviani. It's been lights to flag. 3rd pole position of the year, and it's going to be a 2nd win for Alessandro Ottaviani, who crosses the line for Door eSports by SX, 2nd team of the season, but it is yet another win for the Italian. Well done, Ottaviani. Wisniewski should come through in P2. They're 8 seconds back. The pole and the Porsche doing his chances no harm whatsoever. He's on the outside looking in at the moment, 27th in the standing, so 100 or more points off of the bubble. But I do wonder whether this P2 will give him any chance of getting through. Meanwhile, Moritz Lerner picks up another podium this season, moving up in the standings himself. Lucas Müller up to 4th in the end, ahead of Hakkinen, Vera, Ribeiro, who recovers to P7 after the crash we saw earlier on in this race with Lucas Müller. And then Philip Drace, gone kind of not unnoticed in this one. He's had a few incidents, but he's ended up in P8 by the end of it, ahead of Gronewold and Julian Kunze, rounding out our top 10. What a great race here today, Zach. That one has flown by.
He really has, and we saw the the sheer dominance from Alessandro Ottaviani, and you have to appreciate it. As much as we didn't have a fight for the lead, Alessandro Ottaviani gave everyone else a demonstration as to how to be quick around the Sachsenring. As Gianmarco Fiducci most eloquently put, he did an Antonelli out there on circuit. Ottaviani emulating his fellow countryman, and well, I'm sure Ottaviani probably still wishes he was 19 years old, to be honest, but nonetheless, he's been around in sim racing for quite a while. He's lent on that experience out on circuit, and I mean, just a class victory, his 2nd of the season. And when we talk about making a statement and having that target on your back going into finale, Alessandro Ottaviani is going to be one that you're going to fear at Hockenheim and Nürburgring.
I'm actually going to tell you a story, but I use this opportunity to tell you a little story about Ottaviani because he is a great guy. And last time I was actually racing at the Sachsenring in Race Room, I was taking part in a GT4 ADAC championship. And before I continue this story, here is your podium. So Ottaviani taking the win then, Nikodem Wisniewski, 2nd place for Williams, and 3rd place Moritz Lerner, the top mouse finisher in that BMW. So it's Porsche, BMW on the podium. And yes, the man in the centre is who I was talking about there. Last time I was racing around this track on this game, I was struggling in the GT4 cars. I was in the same championship as Ottaviani. He was leading the championship, funnily enough. I wasn't. I was probably on the bubble of the top 20. But he actually jumped on the server with me and gave me a little bit of help and showed me how to drive and gave me some setup advice. He really didn't need to. We weren't teammates or anything like that. He just wanted to help a struggling friend. So yeah, it's great to see him back, returning to this circuit and taking a well-deserved victory here today. And yeah, proving that he is absolutely one of the main contenders here in DTM eSports 2026. He's not won this championship before, has Ottaviani, but he's proven over many years how quick he can be. It's maybe the consistency that's been lacking for him. But this season, I mean, he's doing bits. He's showing that that's not necessarily going to be the case. So yeah, you have to say, you know, what more could he have done today? I think he's basically set him up perfectly for this finale.
Yeah, I've just been told by Noah Osbaldeston and also from a couple of people in the YouTube chat as well that the Miles drivers were on the cusp, and Max Benecke, ran out of fuel onto the final lap. Moritz Lerner was very, very close to the cusp as well, almost ran out of fuel himself. But of course, Max Benecke, just getting the margin slightly wrong. Was in fuel-saving mode for the best part of the final stint of that race, and ultimately couldn't get to the end. A shame to see his race undone there, but well, those are the margins that we're talking about out there on circuit. A shame to see it done for Max Benecke, but I'm sure he'll be bouncing back and better than ever with enough fuel in the car for Hockenheim for the finale.
He certainly will. Another man who had a bit of a disaster out there today was Tim Yarshall, of course. The man right up there in the championship, in the top 4, has won a race already this season, multiple pole positions. But Zach it went wrong from minute 1.
Yeah, I mean, it did. Yeah, it was just downhill. But I mean, nothing can really be taken away from Ottaviani up in front. I mean, that's just the statement that he's made, right? And he'll be going into the finale as the favourite, ultimately looking to make a statement. But as we've said, his performance over the last 5 rounds, inconsequential for the finale. He really has to make sure he is delivering, putting the prep in if he wants a chance. Because yeah, you might as well be the online qualifier champion. I don't know. If I had to choose one, I'd definitely be choosing the finale. Let's put it that way. So Ottaviani really does need to make sure he arrives. He can't get complacent. He can't feel safe or secure in any way. He needs to be continuing this form, continuing this level of preparation, and make sure he arrives when we do the finale.
So a quick reminder, the finale will take place in just a couple of weeks' time, and it will happen live at the DTM round at the Nürburgring. There will be 2 rounds of DTM eSports taking place on the 15th of August. There will be a Nürburgring round and then a classic DTM traditional finale, also racing at Hockenheim. And we're actually going to speak now to our race winner, Alessandro Ottaviani, who of course took his 2nd win of the season. It was a great start at Zandvoort. P1 to start off the season. Then things got a bit tough in the middle of the season for you, Alessandro. But coming in here today, you were dominant from start to finish. Is this your best ever run in DTM eSports? Oh, I'm not sure if we have Alessandro quite yet. We can see him on the stream, but I'm not sure if he can hear me. So we'll wait until we get clarification on that one. Give me a wee thumbs up if you can hear me, Alessandro. No, it doesn't look like we've got him yet.
You guys, I think.
Oh,
yeah. No,
we've got him. Okay, we can hear him, so I can hear Alessandro. So I don't think he can hear us, unfortunately. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and hopefully we'll get that sorted for you guys in a little bit. But yeah, I was just going to ask him about whether this was his best run, because for me, watching as a spectator, I think this might be the best performance I've ever seen from Ottaviani, just given the caliber of competition here in the DTM eSports Championship. You're up against the best in the business across all of these different platforms, and to do it with 8-9 seconds in hand, it's just such a statement.
I mean, ultimately, he had he had the more favourable car. Let's put it that way, right? The Porsche definitely had the slight edge relative to everyone else, but you can have the machinery. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to deliver with it. And he put it on pole. He got the start that he needed. He controlled the race. He kept himself consistent. He kept his composure, and he ran away with that race victory. At no point was he under threat. At no point did you think for a moment that he was going to be challenged. And again, like I alluded to, this isn't the best in race room, right? We've got some of the best on race room. This is the best in sim racing arriving on this grid. You've got to rise above. You've got to be the best of an already incredibly competitive field. And that's exactly what Alessandro Ottaviani was able to deliver. Maybe the platform tailored a little bit more to his driving style, something that he can be a little bit more flexible with in that sense. But ultimately, again, whether he loves race room or maybe it's not his favourite sim, he put the work in, put the prep in, and that was a stark standout performance for the Italian today.
It certainly was. So I think in the meantime, we are going to chat to our 2nd place finisher. Hopefully we'll get Alessandro back. And Nicodem, can you hear us? Can you give us a thumbs up? No, it doesn't look like it. So I think potentially the driver's struggling to hear me through the call that we have them on the interview here. So we'll have to we'll keep on persevering with this, and hopefully we'll be able to get through to Nicodem. I'm going to just have a little look myself, see if there's anything I can do. Oh, there we go. Nikodem, can you hear us at all?
Yes, hello.
Hey, we've got Nikodem Wisniewski. Nikodem, what a run for you. You're not inside the top 20 in the championship, but you've done your chances no harm at all. P2 here today.
Yeah, I mean, let's see if that will be enough or not. We still don't know with this point system, so I'll just wait for the final results. Also, because of turn 1, it was like a bit of a mess there. So yeah, let's see what will be the decision, but pretty happy about the race. The prep was limited, but I mean, it was my best race in that season. Unfortunately, I couldn't do one race, so that dropped me out from top 20, but now I get that chances back, so let's see. Maybe it will be enough.
And how was the race from your perspective in terms of enjoyment? Because it looked like you were just trying to hang on to the back of Ottaviani, and then very quickly, as he maybe had a little bit too much pace, you found yourself in sort of no man's land. So it must have been difficult to sort of stay concentrated.
Well, I mean, at the beginning, I thought that I might have a chance to fight with Alessandro, but to be honest, I was really confused about what happened in turn 1, so I couldn't find my pace that quickly. And Alessandro did a great race. I think the pace was amazing. So after I think like 10 laps, I realized that it's going to be very hard to fight for the victory. So of course I was trying to push hard and to catch Alessandro, but he was just 1-2 tenths faster than me every lap. So I knew I need to focus on the guys behind me and just cover them in the pit stop. So that's what I did for the whole of the race. And yeah, luckily it was enough for P2. But yeah, big congrats to Alessandro, because I think that was a domination.
Yeah, it was a superb race from the two of you, to be fair. And if it wasn't for Alessandro, we'd be talking about a completely dominant race for yourself. But we're so close
Yeah.
now to the finale. And if you have indeed made it into that top 20, how are you feeling towards the finale? Because it's 2 rounds, the points are reset. So something that missed round doesn't make a difference. You can really go for this one.
Yeah. I mean, let's see if that will be the case, then I'll be happy, because that might be my last race in the sim racing scene. I have my first shirt from Williams when I joined back in 2018. So yeah, good memories. So really happy that this race went like that. I mean, it's always nice to finish the racing on the highs. So let's see if I will make the LAN event. That probably will be my last LAN event in the sim racing career. I mean, who knows? But it looks like it's gonna be like that.
Plenty of years still to come, I'm sure. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, good luck getting into the final. I'm sure it'll be a nervous wait for you, but if you do get there, we wish you the best of luck with those races. And thank you for joining us. We'll let you get away. Nikodem Wisniewski. Right, Zach, he's... I'm just going to actually change a wee setting here because I'm hearing myself through twice. But yeah, Nikodem obviously had a bit of an interesting race where he had Alessandro driving away from him at the front, and that must have been very difficult to manage. And he also had to keep an eye on the mirror because you had a couple of amazing, talented drivers in Beneke and Lerner and all these guys right behind him. So yeah, very challenging, but obviously taking a key result, which could end up seeing him get through to the finale.
Yeah, it was an important race there for Nikodem to arrive and to show up. And again, when he knows that he's on the cusp maybe of his sim racing career, back in 2018 he joined Williams, and he's had such a coveted journey with them all the way through their ranks. And you know, he wanted to give himself a good send off. That could well have been his final competitive race with the team. He wants to make it to the LAN event. Of course he does. He wants to end it on a high, but he also had that, you know, sort of intrinsic motivation, I guess, to do well, to give the send off that not only he, but also the team deserve in order to round off what has been such a great career for the pole. And then also manage the race in of itself, right? It's all good getting sentimental. He's also got a race that he needs to go and do as well as he possibly can. And we saw that today. I mean, he wasn't quite on the level of Ottaviani, but you can forgive him for that because no one was on the level of Alessandro Ottaviani. So Nikodem Wisniewski, the best of everyone, comfortably, apart from the Italian. And what was once the race got settled, once we got into the swing of things, it was a very comfortable P2 for him anyway. So hopefully it's going to be enough to get him into the top 20 because, well, who doesn't want to see more of Nikodem fighting at the front of DTM?
Yeah, certainly. So we hope that's the case. We should now have Alessandro Ottaviani. So can you hear us, Alessandro?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'll ask you one question. I'll let Zach take it away. But how does it feel to take that victory? And is that your best ever performance in DTM eSports?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about it because yeah, I think the pace was pretty good. I got the pole, and yeah, everything felt quite easy, to be honest. So I would say maybe not maybe emotionally, but in terms of statistic and group performance, I think was probably the best performance. Yes.
And Alessandro, hopefully you can hear me as well.
Yeah, I can hear both.
Great. This is great. Oh my goodness me. It's working, John. Can you believe it? Alessandro, I mean, just from your end and, reflecting on the season thus far, but also looking to the LAN event now, because you've taken, a number of pole positions. You've been the fastest overall over the course of the online qualifiers, 2 wins from the 5 rounds. What do you expect from yourself heading into the finale? Do you expect to be the favourite to win, or do you think maybe you're going to be on the back foot? What do you think heading into the final 2 rounds?
Yeah, for sure. I'm, at the moment, with this kind of performance, I think I can do quite well on the on-site final. But, who knows at the end, because everyone will have the same equipment. There is, the hype and all the energy on the on-site final. So I think the best will be the guy that is going to be the fastest on adapting on everything in all the situation that an on-site event could bring. So yeah, I mean, I have good expectation for sure. So I'm not going there to be laughed for sure, but yeah, for sure it's promising to get this kind of performance in the online season. But we know that on the on-site event is going to be, everything can change, even a tiny bit can make a huge difference. So I'm not really expecting nothing, but for sure I know that I can do something significant on the final. So I think I can be strong for sure, but I don't know how, because the field is so competitive. So yeah, I cannot really predict something today.
And what does preparation look like between now and the end of up into the finale, right? From now, does prep start tomorrow morning, or are you going to give yourself a little bit of a rest? Talk us through maybe what goes into an event, especially at this level, because it's not like showing up for a ranked event. There's some serious prizes on the line, and I'm sure you want to be well prepared to give it your best.
For sure, I will start as soon as I can, probably even tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, you said it. There is a big prize on the on the line, and everything can make difference for the on-site event. So we will start to prepare, I think, very, very soon. And, we will try as hard as we can. And yeah, so we will start very early.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we'll let you get away, Alessandro. Thank you so much for joining us, and a massive well done for your victory today. We wish you all the best with the finale, and we look forward to seeing how you get on in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys. Ciao, have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you, Alessandro Ottaviani. And Zach, I mean, what a day we've seen out here today. We've seen some great racing. We've seen our first 2-time winner, of course, but importantly for these drivers, it's all focused now for that finale in 2 weeks' time. The prep begins maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be 2-hour-long races that decide it all.
Yeah, and the pressure that's going to be there, right? You're going to do it back to back. You're going to do it on site. It's now real, right? You've qualified. You've done the online qualifiers, which, again, as we've alluded to, for the top 20 now mean absolutely nothing apart from maybe just more familiarization with the platform. When you're then on site, when you've then got the lights and the crowd and the atmosphere all around you, showing up at LAN is a very different ball game. And also for a lot of these drivers, completely new equipment. Now, as much as they are the best in the business, and you kind of do expect them to just be able to get on with it, very small differences in equipment can make such a huge difference, even down to the seating position that you're in. If it's a slight, not enough of an incline, your lower back starts hurting, especially for some of the unks in the field as well, right? So that's something that they are going to need to maybe slightly adapt to. The brake pressure, the load cell travel, the throttle pressure, the way the wheel is tilted, all of these small differences that when you arrive to LAN, fair enough, it's a level playing field, but for each driver, it's going to be a different challenge to adapt to each of those bits of equipment. So just because you're quick at home, where you're comfortable, you're in your own space, doesn't necessarily translate into LAN pure pace. Even though when everyone arrives, in optimal conditions, they probably all can be within 0.4 of a second. Whether that's going to be the case when we arrive for the first qualifying session remains to be seen. I think we are going to have an absolute barnstormer of a DTM eSports finale in 2026.
Yeah, it's a super point you make. Definitely unfamiliar territory does really test these drivers and force them to try and find something else within themselves to be out the front. And we could see a big shake-up in the order, of course. Now that the drivers, or we'll soon find out, hopefully, who's made it into that top 20, everything resets. And even though we have some clear contenders and favourites, it could really be any of the 20 that come away with the victory. So do make sure that you tune in for the final. I cannot wait to see it myself. It's not the end, though, for DTM on Raceroom in the near future, because once the final has been completed on the 15th of August, we have a new championship starting up called the DTM Community Cup. So we have a little bit of information about that for you now. So this will kick off on August the 27th, and the races will take place on Thursdays. There will be 6 rounds, covering many great tracks from the history of the DTM Championship. So plenty of exciting old venues, I'm sure, to get stuck into on that one. The races will once again be an hour long, much like these races that we've seen in the DTM eSports Championship, although it will only be one mandatory pit stop in the Community Cup. And it is an open registration, so everyone who plays on Raceroom, much like DTM eSports, can get involved in this championship. And once again, the top split races will be broadcast with English commentary as well. And excitingly, there are prizes up for grabs too. You can win tickets to the DTM finale this season at the Hockenheimring, and also some DTM merch as well. So plenty to get excited about with the DTM Community Cup. And of course, you can keep an eye on all Raceroom socials and DTM socials for all the information about that as it starts towards the end of August. But that is going to be it from myself and Zach tonight. It's been a thrilling championship so far. 5 rounds down. We've seen 5 amazing races, 2 more to go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the final.